Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beast fanfic. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Goku was the Shadow Monarch and recruited the S-rank hunter Hae-In. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Awakening. The scent of blood hung heavy in the air. Goku's boots splashed through crimson puddles as he sprinted down the cavernous tunnel, the distant screams of his teammates growing fainter with each passing second. The luminous crystals embedded in the dungeon walls pulsed with an eerie blue glow, casting long shadows that seemed to reach for him with every step. Damn it, he muttered, pushing his body faster. His muscles burned with familiar exertion, but something else burned deeper within him, something cold and ancient that had been stirring since they'd entered this gate. This wasn't supposed to happen. B-rank gates weren't meant to connect. But somehow, impossibly, this one had merged with another, creating a labyrinthine death trap filled with monsters far beyond their clearance level. The two NNEL widened into a massive chamber where the battle raged. 3 of his teammates, all that remained of the 12 hunters who had entered, fought desperately against a creature that towered over them. Its body was a nightmarish amalgamation of insect and reptile, with 6 segmented limbs ending in scythe-like appendages and a carapace that shimmered with unnatural iridescence. "Hold the line," shouted Minho, the team leader, his sword glowing with the last dregs of his mana as he parried a strike that would have cleaved him in two. Reinforcements are coming. But Goku knew better. The association wouldn't send help in time. The survival rate for double dungeon breaks was effectively 0. Something cold twisted in his gut as he watched Hae-In fall, her barrier magic finally giving out as a razor-sharp limb pierced her chest. The monster didn't even pause to acknowledge the kill, immediately swinging toward Ji-Woo, whose arrows bounced harmlessly off its armored hide. "Get back!" Goku shouted, leaping into the fray. His fist connected with the creature's side with enough force to shatter concrete, but the monster merely skidded back a few feet, its chitinous armor cracking slightly before beginning to regenerate. Minho glanced at him, relief washing over his blood-spattered face. "Took your sweet time," he said, his voice strained but still carrying his characteristic sarcasm. "Did you find an exit?" Goku shook his head, dropping into his familiar fighting stance. "No, but I found something else. Something's wrong with this gate. It's not just a merger, there's something at the center. Pulling everything together. Fascinating," Ji-Woo muttered dryly, notching her last arrow. "Maybe save the theory for after we kill this thing." The monster chittered, a sound like metal scraping against glass. And charged. Goku moved with practiced precision, channeling his ki, not mana, but something different that had always set him apart from other hunters, into his limbs. His fist struck with thunderous force, cracking the creature's front limb. For a moment, he thought they might have a chance. Then 2 more monsters identical to the first emerged from adjoining tunnels. "We need to retreat," Minho ordered, backing toward one of the smaller passages. "Find the..." His words died in a wet gurgle as a stinger burst through his throat from behind. A 4th monster had appeared silently behind them, its translucent body nearly invisible in the dim light. Ji-Woo screamed, loosing her final arrow in desperate panic before being lifted into the air by 2 of the creatures. They pulled in opposite directions. Goku roared, launching himself toward her, but he was too late. The sickening sound of tearing flesh filled the chamber as Ji-Woo's body was ripped apart. Alone now, surrounded by monsters beyond his rank, Goku felt something shift inside him. The cold sensation that had been building since they entered the gate intensified, spreading through his veins like ice water. His vision darkened around the edges as a voice, ancient and powerful, whispered in his mind. "Arise." Asterisk. The monsters converged on him, sensing his isolation, his vulnerability. One slashed at his side, drawing blood. Another struck from behind, sending him staggering forward. "I have waited long enough." Asterisk. Goku's head pounded as memories not his own flooded his consciousness, battles fought across dimensions. Armies of shadow rising at his command, the weight of a crown forged in darkness. "No," he grunted, fighting both the monsters and the foreign presence invading his mind. "I don't need your power. I can." A scythe-like limb pierced his shoulder, pinning him to the ground. Pain lanced through him, but it was distant, secondary to the cold fire spreading from his core. "Foolish vessel. You have always been mine. Asterisk. The largest creature loomed over him, mandibles clicking in what almost seemed like anticipation. In its compound eyes, Goku saw his reflection, but his normally bright, determined eyes now gleamed with an otherworldly blue light. Something inside him broke. Or perhaps, something was finally set free. Arise. The word tore from his throat, but the voice wasn't entirely his own. Darkness exploded outward from his body, a tsunami of shadow that engulfed the chamber. The monsters screeched, their cries cutting off as the darkness consumed them, broke them down, and reformed them into something else entirely. When the shadows receded, Goku stood alone in the chamber, his wounds healing before his eyes. Around him knelt 4 figures formed of living darkness, each bearing the distinct shape of the monsters that had killed his team, but now bound to his will. He raised his hand, watching as shadows coiled around his fingers like living smoke. What am I? You are the Shadow Monarch, the voice answered, softer now, almost satisfied. And you have finally awakened. Asterisk. The shadows bowed deeper, acknowledging their new master. 3 days later, Goku sat silently in an austere conference room at the International Hunter Association headquarters in Seoul. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, harsh and unforgiving compa, red to the soft blue glow of the dungeon crystals that still haunted his dreams. Across from him sat 3 people. Director Wu Jin-chul, a stern man whose graying temples belied his relatively young age. Dr. Briefs, a blue-haired woman whose intelligence shone in her sharp eyes as she reviewed data on her tablet, and a hunter Goku didn't recognize, a woman with short blonde hair and a sword strapped to her back. Her face impassive as she studied him. So, Director Wu began, steepling his fingers, you're the only survivor of the Yangju double dungeon break. AB rank hunter with no exceptional abilities on record. Yet somehow you emerged unscathed from an incident that killed 11 other hunters, including 2 A ranks. Goku met his gaze steadily. I was lucky. Lucky. Drive. Briefs repeated, looking up from her tablet with undisguised skepticism. The medical team reports your mana signature has changed dramatically. Care to explain that bit of luck? The third woman remained silent. But Goku could feel her eyes on him, assessing, calculating. There was something unusual about her, a presence that felt different from other hunters he'd encountered. I don't know what happened in there, Goku said. Which wasn't entirely a lie. He understood that something had awakened inside him, but the full implications remained unclear. The voice had gone silent since his emergence from the gate, leaving him with new powers but few answers. Director Wu sighed, sliding a folder across the table. The official report states that you displayed exceptional combat skills but were ultimately saved by the timely arrival of an emergency response team. We're classifying the incident as a SS rank gate malfunction. But that's not what happened, Goku said, frowning. No, agreed the director. But what did happen is complicated. Dr. Briefs, would you explain your findings? The blue-haired scientist tapped her tablet, projecting an image onto the wall, a swirling mass of darkness surrounding a humanoid figure. This is you, Mr. Sun, as captured by the gate's internal monitoring system before it failed. What we're seeing here is not standard mana manipulation. It's something else entirely. She swiped to another image, this one showing the shadowy forms kneeling before him. And these are, well, we're not entirely sure what these are. They're soldiers, Goku said quietly. The words coming unbidden to his lips. My shadow soldiers. The blonde woman spoke for the first time, her voice calm but intense. Shadow extraction. You're claiming to have performed shadow extraction. Director Wu and Dr. Briefs exchanged glances. I'm not claiming anything, Goku replied, studying the woman more carefully now. Her hunter uniform bore the distinctive insignia of an S rank, and up close, he could see that her eyes weren't simply brown as he'd first thought. They held flecks of gold that seemed to catch the light unnaturally. Who are you? This is Hae-In, Director Wu introduced her. S-rank hunter and member of the Hunter Association's Special Monitoring Division. Hae-In inclined her head slightly. Shadow extraction is an ability documented only twice in the 15 years since gates began appearing. Both previous individuals with this ability were classified as national-level threats and placed under strict surveillance. Goku caught the past tense immediately. They're dead, she stated flatly. One was killed during a gate clearing gone wrong. The other. She paused, her expression unchanging. The other was terminate. D by the association after losing control of his extracted shadows, resulting in 27 civilian casualties. The implication hung heavy in the air. I'm not a threat, Goku said firmly. I haven't lost control of anything. Yet. Dr. Briefs added, though her tone held more scientific curiosity than fear. The readings we're getting from you are off the charts, Mr. Sun. Your mana capacit. Y has increased exponentially since your last assessment, and there's something else mixed in with it, something our instruments can't quite identify. Goku supplied automatically. It's always been there. The scientist leaned forward with interest. You mean the theoretical energy form from Eastern martial arts traditions? That's not scientifically recognized as separate from mana. It is, Goku insisted. I've always been able to use both. My grandfather taught me to manipulate ki before the gates even appeared. Director Wu cleared his throat. Whatever you call it, your situation presents us with a dilemma, Mr. Sun. Your abilities make you an exceptional asset, potentially even S-rank material. But they also make you unpredictable and, frankly, dangerous. So what happens now? Goku asked. Though he suspected he already knew the answer. Supervised evaluation and training, Hae-In responded. Under my direction. Goku raised an eyebrow. You're going to be my babysitter. For the first time. A flicker of emotion crossed her face, annoyance. I'm going to determine whether you're an asset or a liability. The association has invested considerable resources in hunter development. We don't want to lose another potential S rank if it can be avoided. And if you decide I'm a liability? Goku challenged. The room fell silent. Director Wu shuffled papers unnecessarily. Dr. Briefs suddenly found her tablet fascinating. Hae-In held his gaze. Let's ensure that doesn't happen. The training facility on the outskirts of Seoul resembled a military compound more than a gym. Concrete walls topped with security cameras enclosed a series of buildings and outdoor training areas, all designed to withstand the enhanced abilities of high-ranking hunters. Goku stood in the center of the largest training ground, dressed in his distinctive orange GI rather than standard hunter gear. Around him, a dozen training dummies made of gate monster comp. O-site materials were arranged in a circle. Each was designed to withstand A-rank attacks. In the observation booth above, Hae-In watched alongside Drive. Briefs and 2 association security officers. Begin standard combat assessment. Hae-In instructed through the intercom. Goku took a deep breath, centering himself. For a moment, he considered holding back, showing only the abilities he'd displayed before the incident. But something told him that Hae-In would know. She had an uncanny ability to sense things about him that others missed. He moved, his body a blur as he struck the furs. T-dummy with enough force to crack its reinforced core. Without pausing, he spun into a roundhouse kick that sent another dummy flying into the wall. Impressive speed and strength. Drive. Briefs murmured, making notes. But still within A-rank parameters. Hae-In said nothing, her gold-flecked eyes tracking Goku's movements with professional assessment. Goku dispatched the remaining dummies with fluid efficiency. Each strike precisely calculated to disable without wasting energy. When the last one fell, he stood in the center of the training ground, barely breathing hard. Now the mana manipulation test, Hae-In directed. A new set of dummies emerged from compartments in the floor, these ones designed to register magical attacks rather than physical ones. Goku raised his hand, calling forth his ki, the energy he'd trained with since childhood. A sphere of glowing blue energy formed in his palm, pulsing with power. That's not standard mana formation, Drive. Briefs noted with interest. The color and density are all wrong. Quote. It's ki, Hae-In said quietly. He wasn't lying about that. Goku released the energy ball, which streaked across the training ground and obliterated 3 dummies in a blinding flash. Definitely A-rank level energy projection, one of the security officers commented. Hae-In's eyes narrowed. He's holding back. She leaned forward to the microphone. Mr. Sun. This assessment is pointless if you don't demonstrate your full capabilities. Show us the shadow extraction. Goku looked up at the observation booth, his expression unreadable. Then he closed his eyes. reaching for that cold power that had awakened in the dungeon. It came more easily this time, rising from the depths of his being like a predator scenting blood. Darkness swirled around him, tendrils of shadow extending from his body to touch the ground. Where they connected, the concrete cracked and blackened. My God, breathed Drive. Briefs, her eyes wide as her instruments began beeping frantically. These readings are impossible. The shadows deepened, coalescing into 4 distinct forms, the shadow soldiers Goku had extracted from the monsters in the dungeon. They stood at attention, awaiting commands. Attack! Goku ordered, his voice resonating with power that wasn't entirely his own. The shadows moved with terrifying speed, tearing through the remaining dummies as if they were made of paper. Their movements were coordinated, tactical, not the mindless aggression of monsters but the disciplined attack of trained soldiers. In the observation booth, alarms began to sound. Power levels exceeding S-rank parameters, one of the security officers reported tensely. Should we initiate containment protocols? Hae-In held up a hand. Not yet. He's in control. Below. Goku recalled his shadows with a gesture. They flowed back to him, merging with his own shadow on the ground. The darkness receded, and he looked up at the observation booth expectantly. Well, he called. Did I pass your test? Hae-In's voice came through the speaker, cool and professional. Phase 1 complete. Report to medical for evaluation, then meet me in briefing room 3. As Goku exited the training ground, Drive. Briefs turned to Hae-In with wide eyes. That was SS rank power at minimum. Possibly even beyond classification. I know, Hae-In replied, her expression grave. And he's still not showing us everything. Quote. The medical examination took over 2 hours as Dr. Briefs and her team subjected Goku to every test imaginable. They took blood samples, tissue samples, recorded his mana circulation, measured his ki output, and even performed a full brain scan. Through it all, Goku maintained his characteristic good humor, though he couldn't help but feel like a laboratory specimen rather than a person. Almost done, Drive. Briefs assured him as she prepared one final test. This might feel a bit strange. We're going to stimulate your mana circuits directly to measure your capacity. She attached electrodes to his temples and chest, then stepped back behind a control panel. Ready? Goku nodded. Sure, but I should warn you. She activated the machine before he could finish. Immediately, the equipment began to spark and smoke, screens flashing error messages before going dark. That tends to happen, Goku finished lamely as Dr. Briefs frantically shut down the system. Fascinating, she muttered, not seeming particularly upset about the damaged equipment. Your energy doesn't conform to standard mana patterns at all. It's as if you're channeling something completely different. I told you, it's key. And now, whatever this shadow stuff is. Dr. Briefs looked at him with undisguised scientific curiosity. Would you consent to more extensive testing? This could revolutionize our understanding of hunter abilities. Maybe later, Goku said, sliding off the examination table. I have a meeting with my new babysitter. Dr. Briefs smiled. Hae-In isn't as cold as she seems. She's just focused. And she has good reason to be cautious around unique abilities. Personal experience. Goku guessed. The scientist's smile faded. That's her story to tell, not mine. But if she's been assigned to you, it means the association sees tremendous potential. She doesn't waste time on lost causes. Goku considered this as he made his way to the briefing room. The hallways of the facility were sparsely populated, but the few hunters and staff he passed gave him a wide berth, word of his display in the training ground having apparently spread quickly. Briefing room 3 was a small, windowless space with a table, 4 chairs, and a digital display on one wall. Hae-In was already there, reviewing documents on a tablet. You're late, she noted without looking up. Dr. Briefs got excited and fried some equipment, Goku explained, dropping into the chair across from her. Something about my mana circuits being weird. This got her attention. She set down the tablet and studied him with those unusual eyes. Your mana signature is indeed unique. It's one of the reasons I've been assigned to your case. Because you're an expert on weird hunters. Because I can sense things others can't. She leaned forward slightly. Most S-rank hunters have some form of enhanced perception. Mine allows me to detect the unique scent of monsters and gates. And hunters with unusual abilities. Goku blinked. You can smell power. In a manner of speaking, she confirmed. Monsters have a distinctive odor. Unpleasant, acrid. Most hunters with gate-derived abilities carry traces of it as well. And me? Goku found himself genuinely curious. She hesitated, something unreadable flickering across her face. You're different. Before your awakening, you had almost no monster trace at all. Just the clean scent of your ki, as you call it. Now there's something else, but it's not like any monster I've encountered. Is that good or bad? I haven't decided yet. She picked up her tablet again. Your file says you've been a hunter for 5 years, but your fighting techniques suggest much longer training. Goku nodded. My grandfather trained me in martial arts since I could walk. When the gates started appearing, becoming a hunter seemed natural. Yet you never advanced beyond B rank despite your obvious physical capabilities. It wasn't quite a question, but Goku answered anyway. Never saw the need. B rank jobs paid well enough, and I worked with good teams. I wasn't interested in the politics that come with higher ranks. Hae-In studied him, clearly searching for deception. Finding none, she continued, the association is prepared to officially promote you to A rank immediately, with fast track. K consideration for S rank pending further evaluation. What's the catch? Full cooperation with the assessment program. Regular monitoring of your abilities. And, she paused, you'll be assigned to my team for all gate clearings. Goku leaned back in his chair. So I get a promotion, and you get to keep an eye on me. What happens if I say no? Then you remain B rank, but under even stricter supervision. Your shadow extraction ability makes you too valuable, and potentially too dangerous, to operate independently without proper classification. Not much of a choice, Goku observed. Few hunters get choices, Mr. Son. We serve where we're needed. Something in her tone made Goku look at her more closely. Beneath her professional demeanor, he sensed a deep commitment, not just to the association, but to something more fundamental. Why did you become a hunter, Hae-In? The question seemed to catch her off guard. For a moment, her composed facade slipped, revealing a flash of old pain quickly suppressed. We're not here to discuss my background, she said, her voice cooling several degrees. Your first assignment with my team begins tomorrow, a B rank gate that's showing unusual energy fluctuations. It will serve as a controlled environment to further assess your capabilities. Goku recognized the deflection but didn't press. Instead, he nodded. Fine. I'll be your test subject for now. But I want something in return. You're hardly in a position to negotiate. Maybe not, he conceded. But I have questions about what's happening to me, and I think you know more than you're saying. The association has files on previous shadow extractors, right? I want access to that information. Hae-In regarded him silently for a long moment. I'll see what I can do, she finally said. But understand this, Mr. Son. Shadow extraction has never ended well for those who wielded it. The power you've awakened carries a heavy price. I'm stronger than you think, Gok. You said with the easy confidence that had always characterized him. For everyone's sake, she replied, rising from her chair, I hope you're right. Dash dash dash. The Incheon gate pulsed with sickly green energy. Its surface rippling like disturbed water. Located in an abandoned industrial complex, the area had been quickly evacuated and cordoned off when the gate appeared 3 days earlier. Goku stood. With Hae-In's team, 4 hunters besides themselves, all A-rank specialists selected for their complementary abilities. He'd been introduced as a new recruit undergoing field assessment, his recent T promotion to A rank mentioned without elaboration on his shadow abilities. Park Min-jae, defensive specialist, said a broad-shouldered man with a short military haircut, extending his hand. Heard you survived Yangju. Tough break. Goku clasped his hand, noting the calluses that spoke of years wielding the shield strapped to Min-jae's back. Thanks. Still processing it. Jung Da-hee, support mage, offered a petite woman with round glasses and a practical ponytail. She didn't extend her hand, instead continuing to prepare vials of blue liquid that Goku recognized as high-grade mana restorative. I'll be maintaining shields and healing during the operation. The other 2 team members, twin brothers who specialized in coordinated close-quarters combat, merely nodded in acknowledgement. Their attention focused on checking their identical curved blades. Hae-In approached, now dressed in full hunter gear, reinforced leather armor over a fitted black combat suit, her sword strapped across her back. Briefing in 5 minutes. The gate is showing increasing instability, so we're moving up the timetable. She led them to a portable command center where digital displays showed real-time monitoring of the gate's energy output. Standard B rank parameters, she began, but with unusual fluctuations in the mana frequency. Association analysts believe this gate may be attempting to connect with another. Similar to what happened at Yangju. The team shifted uncomfortably at this news. However, she continued, the connection appears to be failing naturally. Our mission is to clear the gate before it destabilizes completely. We go in, eliminate the boss monster, and get out. Clean and simple. What's causing these connections? Dahi asked, adjusting her glasses. This is the third case in 2 months. Unknown, Hae-In replied. Research division is investigating. Goku noticed she didn't meet Dahi's eyes as she answered. She was hiding something. Something He association knew but wasn't sharing with regular hunters. Equipment check, Hae-In ordered, ending further questions. We enter in 15 minutes. As the team dispersed to make final preparations, Goku approached Hae-In. You know more about these gate connections than you're saying. She glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. This isn't the place, Mr. Sun. If we're going into a potentially dangerous situation, I need to know what we're really facing. She hesitated, then nodded tersely. Walk with me. They moved away from the command center toward the perimeter of the containment zone, where the hum of the gate was barely audible. The association has been tracking unusual gate behavior for months, she said quietly. Something is changing in the system. Gates should have no connection or somehow communicating with each other. And they all show the same energy signature. The signature of a monarch, Goku guessed, the knowledge rising from that cold place inside him. Hae-In looked at him sharply. How did you know that term? I just do, Goku said, unable to explain further. Since the awakening, I know things I shouldn't know. About gates, about monarchs, about the shadow soldiers. She studied him intently. The previous shadow extractors reported similar knowledge transfer. As if the ability comes with its own instruction manual. Or its own instructor, Goku murmured, remembering the voice that had spoken in his mind. What do you mean? Before he could answer, an alarm blared from the command center. They rushed back to Finn. The monitoring equipment flashing red warnings. Gate destabilization accelerating, reported a technician. Energy levels spiking. Hae-In immediately shifted to command mode. Team, form up. We're entering now. But the preparatory scans aren't complete, Dahi protested. No time, Hae-In cut her off. If this gate connects or collapses, we could be looking at a citywide disaster. Move. The team assembled at the gate entrance, tension evident in their rigid postures. Goku felt surprisingly calm, the cold power inside him stirring in anticipation. Hae-In drew her sword, a slender blade inscribed with runes that glowed faintly blue. Standard formation. Min-Jae on point, twins flanking, Dahi center rear for support. Son, you're with me. She gave Goku a meaningful look. No shadows unless absolutely necessary. Understood. He nodded, though they both knew it was a contingency rather than a prohibition. If things went badly, they'd need every advantage. Breach in 3, 2, 1. Min-Jae stepped forward, his shield expanding into a glowing barrier that encased the front of their formation as they entered the gate. The familiar disorientation of gate travel washed over them, a sensation like falling while standing still, reality bending around them as they transitioned from Earth to whatever dimension lay beyond. When the sensation passed, they found themselves in a vast cavern illuminated by the same phosphorescent crystals Goku had seen at Yangju. Formation hold, Hae-In ordered quietly, her sword at ready position. Dahi, perimeter scan. The mage closed her eyes, extending her senses outward. Multiple entities approaching from the northeast tunnel. Mana signatures consistent with B-rank insectoid types. Hae-In's nose wrinkled slightly. She's right. I can smell them, like burnt chemicals. Goku inhaled deeply, catching only the musty scent of the cavern. I don't smell anything unusual. You wouldn't, she replied. It's my ability, not a normal sense. The ground trembled as the sound of clicking mandibles echoed through the tunnels. Min-jae reinforced his shield, the twins moving to flanking positions with practiced precision. Remember, Hae-In said to Goku. This is an assessment. Show me how you fight. Your natural style, not just the shadows. He grinned, dropping into his fighting stance. Trust me, the shadows are just a bonus. I was kicking monster butt long before they showed up. The first wave of creatures burst from the tunnel, giant beetle-like monsters with armored carapaces and snapping pincers. They charged the hunter formation with mindless aggression. Min-jae met them head-on, his shield deflecting their attacks while the twins darted in from the sides, their curved blades finding the weak points between armored segments. Dahi maintained a barrier around herself while casting enhancement spells on her teammates. Hae-In moved like water, her sword leaving trails of blue light as she cut through monster after monster with effortless precision. Her fighting style was economical, wasting no movement, each strike perfectly calculated. Goku launched himself into the fray with considerably less restraint. His fists shattered carapaces, his kicks sent monsters flying into walls. He fought with the joyful abandon of someone who had trained his entire life for combat, each movement flowing naturally into the next. Behind you, Hae-In called sharply. Goku spun just as a monster dropped from the ceiling, its pincers aiming for his neck. Without thinking, he thrust his palm forward. A blast of ki energy reducing the creature to ash. Nice trick, Min-jae commented, bashing another monster with his shield. Don't remember seeing that in the A-rank handbook. Family technique, Goku replied with a grin. The first wave of monsters thinned out, and the team regrouped, taking stock of their surroundings. The boss should be deeper in, Hae-In said, cleaning monster ichor from her blade. Dahi, status. Gate stability at 64% and falling, the mage reported after consulting a small device strapped to her wrist. We have approximately 40 minutes before critical failure. Then we move fast. Hae-In decided. Son, your assessment so far is satisfactory. Your combat skills are definitely A rank, possibly higher. Thanks, I think, Goku replied, rolling his should. Where one of the monsters had grazed him. The wound was already healing, another benefit of his awakened abilities. They proceeded deeper into the dungeon, encountering increasingly difficult monsters as they approached the center. The twins worked in perfect synchronization, their movements so coordinated they seemed to share a single mind. Min-jae's defensive capabilities proved invaluable against monsters that spat acid or launched spine projectiles. Throughout it all, Hae-In observed Goku with professional intensity, noting his fighting style, his decision-making, and his interactions with the team. He was undisciplined compared to her other hunters, but undeniably effective. After dispatching a particularly challenging group of monsters, they paused at a junction of 3 tunnels. Which way? Min-jae asked. Looking to Hae-In, she closed her eyes, focusing on her enhanced senses. The monster scent is strongest from the center path, but she frowned. There's something else. Something familiar. Goku felt it too, a pull toward the central tunnel, as if something there was calling to him. The cold power inside him stirred in response. The boss is that way, he said with certainty. And something else. Something connected to what happened at Yangju. The twins exchanged skeptical glances, but Hae-In nodded. I agree. Center path it is, but proceed with caution. Dahi, gate status. 51% stability and dropping faster now. 30 minutes at most. We need to hurry, Hae-In said. Standard approach. Min-jae and I will engage the boss directly. Twins provide flanking support. Dahi maintains barriers and healing. Son. She paused, giving him a measuring look. Adaptable response. Follow my lead initially, then respond as the situation dictates. They moved down the central tunnel, which widened gradually into another massive chamber. Unlike the previous caverns, this one showed signs of deliberate construction. Stone pillars carved with intricate symbols supported the high ceiling. And the floor was paved with fitted blocks rather than natural stone. In the center stood an altar of black stone, and atop it rested a crystalline object that pulsed with the same sickly green light as the gate entrance. That's not a standard dungeon configuration, Dahi whispered. This looks constructed. Because it is, Goku replied, the knowledge coming to him unbidden. This isn't a random monster nest. It's a temple. Before anyone could question him, a deafening screech echoed through the chamber. From behind the altar rose an enormous creature. A monstrous fusion of beetle and mantis, its segmented body gleaming with iridescent armor, 6 limbs ending in razor-sharp blades. That's the boss, one of the twins asked incredulously. It's at least A rank. Gate classification was wrong, Hae-In said grimly, readying her sword. Stick to the plan but adjust for A rank threat level. The monster charged with surprising speed for its size. Min-Jae braced himself, his shield expanding to absorb the impact. The collision sent him skidding back several meters, but his barrier held. The twins darted in from opposite sides, their blades seeking vulnerable joints. The monster swiveled with unnatural flexibility, one blade limb catching one of the twins across the chest, sending him flying into a pillar. Jin-Ho, his brother cried, momentarily distracted. Hae-In intercepted the strike meant for the distracted twin, her sword parrying the monster's blade with a shower of sparks. Focus. Dahi, get Jin-Ho stabilized. Gok. Yu launched himself at the creature's head, his fist connecting with enough force to crack its armored carapace. The monster screeched in pain, flailing wildly. Son, the eyes, Hae-In called, ducking under a slashing limb. They're vulnerable. Goku redirected his next attack, driving his fist into one of the monster's compound eyes. Ichor sprayed as the eye shattered, sending the creature into a frenzy of pain and rage. It thrashed wildly, one of its blades catching Min-Jae's shield at an angle that bypassed its protective field. The blade sliced deep into his shoulder, drawing a cry of pain. Shields down, Dahi shouted, trying to maintain a barrier while simultaneously healing the injured twin. I can't cover everyone. The monster seemed to sense their vulnerability, focusing its attacks on Dahi. The remaining twin tried to intercept, but was batted aside like a toy. Hae-In moved with blinding speed, placing herself between the monster and her team. Her sword glowed with intense blue light as she channeled her mana into the blade. Get clear. She executed a complex series of strikes too fast for the normal eye to follow, her sword leaving trails of light that seemed to hang in the air. The monster's armor cracked and split where the blade connected, green ichor pouring from a dozen wounds. But the creature was far from defeated. It reared back, its remaining eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. The crystal on the altar pulsed in synchronization with the monster's movements, the green light intensifying. Something's happening, Dahi warned, her monitoring device beeping frantically. Gate stability dropping rapidly. The chamber began to shake, stones falling from the ceiling as the ground trembled. The monster raised its blade limbs toward the crystal, which now levitated above the altar, spinning faster and faster. Goku felt the cold power surging inside him, responding to the energy in the chamber. This is what happened at Yangju, he realized. The connection between gates. Hae-In seemed to realize it too. We need to destroy that crystal. She shouted over the increasing rumble. It's trying to connect the gates. She launched herself toward the altar. But the monster moved with unexpected speed, slamming her against a pillar. She hit with bone-jarring force, her sword clattering to the ground as she slumped, momentarily stunned. The rest of the team was in disarray. Min-Jae bleeding heavily from his shoulder, one twin unconscious, the other trying to protect Dahi as she struggled to maintain her barriers against falling debris. Goku looked from his injured teammates to the crystal, which now spun so rapidly it was just a blur of green light. The chamber shook more violently, cracks spreading across the floor and walls. It's now or never, the cold voice whispered in his mind. Show them what you truly are. He closed his eyes, letting the power rise unchecked. Shadows spread from his feet, darkening the chamber as they expanded outward in pulsing waves. The temperature dropped dramatically, frost forming on the stone pillars. Arise, Goku commanded, his voice resonating with power that was not entirely his own. From his shadow emerged the 4 soldiers he had extracted at Yangju, but they were different now, larger, more defined, their forms solidifying into something between shadow and substance. They moved with perfect coordination, as if extensions of Goku's will. The monster turned from the altar, sensing the new threat. It screeched a challenge, blade limbs raised aggressively. Attack, Goku ordered, pointing at the creature. Protect the hunters. The shadow soldiers swarmed the monster, moving faster than physical beings should be able to move. They struck with precision, ta. are getting the joints and eyes that Goku had identified as vulnerable. The monster fought back fiercely, but it couldn't track the shadow soldiers' movements as they seemed to melt into darkness and reemerge elsewhere. With the monster distracted, Goku sprinted toward the altar. The crystal pulsed faster as he approached, as if sensing his intentions. He gathered ki in his palm. Not the shadows, but his original power, pure and focused. Kamehameha. The ancient technique his grandfather had taught him erupted from his hands, a beam of concentrated blue energy striking the crystal directly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like shattering glass magnified 1,000-fold, the crystal exploded. Green energy dispersed in a shockwave that knocked Goku off his feet and sent the monster staggering. The chamber fell suddenly silent, the trembling subsiding. Dahi's monitoring device gave a series of beeps before displaying a steady reading. Gate stabilizing, she announced with disbelief. Return to normal parameters. Goku rose slowly, turning to see the monster still engaged with his shadow soldiers. Without the crystal's influence, it seemed diminished somehow, its movements less coordinated. Hae-In had regained consciousness and retrieved her sword. She stood watching the shadow soldiers with an unreadable expression before shifting her gaze to Goku. Finish it, she said simply. Goku nodded, extending his hand toward the monster. The shadows responded instantly, intensifying their assault. One shadow soldier, the largest, extracted from the Mons tear that had killed Minho, leapt onto the creature's back and drove its blade-like limbs deep into the monster's head. The creature collapsed, its body twitching for several seconds before going still. The shadow soldiers stood at attention, awaiting further commands. Return, Goku said softly, and they melted back into his shadow, leaving only the hunters and the fallen monster in the suddenly quiet chamber. Dahi was already tending to the injured, her healing magic stabilizing Min-jae and the unconscious twin. The remaining twin hovered anxiously nearby, his blade still drawn as if expecting another attack. Hae-In approached Goku, her sword lowered but not sheathed. That was not A-rank power, she said quietly. What you just did, the association has no classification for it. Goku looked at the altar where the crystal had been, now just a scorched stone surface. What was that thing? Why was it trying to connect the gates? I don't know, she admitted. But the association has found 3 similar artifacts in the past month. Each one associated with a gate trying to connect to another. She studied him with renewed intensity. The shadow extraction was impressive enough, but that energy attack. What did you call it? Kamehameha. Goku said. It's a key technique my grandfather taught me. And these shadow soldiers, they're more developed than reports indicated they should be. More independent. Goku shrugged. They do what I tell them to. I don't know why they're different. Hae-In seemed about to say more when Dahi called from across the chamber. We need to move. Min-jae and Jinho are stable, but they need proper medical attention. And the gate is showing signs of normal collapse now that the boss is defeated. Can everyone walk? Hae-In asked, shifting back to team leader mode. I've got Jinho, his brother said, helping the groggy twin to his feet. I'll help Min-jae, Goku offered, moving to support the shield bearer. Min-ya eyed him warily but accepted the assistance. That was some freaky shit, he muttered as Goku helped him up. Since when does the association recruit necromancers? I'm not a necromancer, Goku replied. Just a guy with some unusual abilities. Right, Min-jae said skeptically. Remind me not to die around you. Don't fancy becoming one of your puppets. Goku frowned. It doesn't work like that. I can only extract shadows from monsters, not humans. Not yet, whispered the cold voice, so faintly he almost missed it. The team made their way back through the tunnels toward the gate entrance. Dahi periodically checking her monitoring device to ensure they were heading in the right direction. The journey back was mercifully free of monster encounters, standard procedure for a gate after the boss had been defeated. As they approached the exit, Hae-In fell into step beside Goku. When we return, you'll be debriefed separately, she said in a low voice. The director will want a full report on what happened with the crystal. Will you tell them everything? Goku asked. About the shadows. She met his gaze steadily. I'm required to report all relevant observations. But, she hesitated. I will also recommend you for expedited S-rank evaluation. What you did back there saved the team and potentially prevented a disaster if the gates had connected. Thanks, Goku said, surprised by the endorsement. I thought you were supposed to be deciding if I'm a threat. I'm still evaluating that, she replied candidly. But I recognize useful assets when I see them. And whatever you are, Son Goku, you're definitely useful. The gate shimmer appeared ahead of them, the boundary between dimensions marked by rippling distortion in the air. One more thing, Hae-In said as they prepared to cross. The crystal you destroyed. I've seen something similar before. 3 years ago, in a double dungeon break that killed my entire team. Goku looked at her with new understanding. That's why you were assigned to me. You've seen this before. She nodded once, her expression revealing nothing. We'll talk more after debriefing. There are things you need to know, Thin. GS the association doesn't share with regular hunters. Before he could respond, they stepped through the gate, the familiar disorientation washing over them as they transitioned back to Earth. Emerg and C medical teams rushed forward to take the injured hunters, and association officials immediately surrounded them, demanding preliminary reports. In the chaos, Goku lost sight of Hae-In. But words echoed in his mind as he was escorted to a debriefing room, promises of answers, but also warnings of greater mysteries. And beneath it all, the cold presence stirred, patient and ancient. This is only the beginning. It whispered. Soon you will understand what it means to be the Shadow Monarch. Asterisk. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. The S rank. The association headquarters buzzed with unusual activity for a Tuesday morning. Hunters from various divisions clustered in hallways, their hushed conversations ceasing whenever Goku passed. 3 days had elapsed since the Incheon Gate incident, despite the association's attempts to classify the details, rumors spread like wildfire through the ranks. Some whispered about shadow manipulation, others about key techniques unknown to modern hunters. A few even claimed Goku had communicated with the gate itself. None of the rumors captured the full reality, which suited Goku fine as he made his way to the director's office on the top floor. The weight of others' expectations had never bothered him before, but the constant scrutiny since his awakening felt different, heavier, more consequential. The cold presence inside him had remained quiet since Incheon. But Goku sensed it watching, evaluating his choices with ancient, patient interest. You're late, Hae-In remarked as he approached the director's waiting area. She stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, the morning sun illuminating her profile as she gazed out over Seoul's skyline. Traffic, Goku replied with a shrug, dropping into one of the sleek leather chairs. Not all of us have association apartments in the building. Something almost like amusement flickered across her face. The association offered you housing 3 times. You declined. I like my place. It has character. It has mold. I've seen the file. Goku grinned. You checked up on where I live. I'm flattered. Before she could respond, the director's assistant emerged from the inner office. The director will see you now. The spacious office bore none of the ostentation Goku might have expected from the headquarters of an international organization. Instead, it was almost austere, functional furniture, minimal decoration, and walls lined with monitors displaying gate activity across the Korean peninsula. Director Woo Jin-chul stood beside his desk, reviewing data on a tablet with a blue-haired woman Goku recognized from his initial assessment. Dr. Briefs. Goku greeted her with genuine warmth. Despite her clinical approach during his testing, she'd been one of the few who seemed excited rather than terrified by his abilities. Mr. Sun, she replied, her eyes lighting up. Your cellular regeneration rate is remarkable. The samples we took after Incheon show complete mitochondrial reconfiguration when you access your shadow abilities. Absolutely fascinating from a bioenergetic perspective. Director Wu cleared his throat. Perhaps we could begin with the promotion ceremony before diving into scientific minutiae. Drive. Briefs. Of course, she said, though her eyes continued to study Goku with undisguised scientific curiosity. The director steered to a small wooden box on his desk. Normally, advancement to S rank involves a public ceremony, media presence, and considerable pageantry. Given the unique circumstances of your case, we're proceeding more discreetly. He opened the box to reveal a platinum badge embossed with an S and encoded with identification chips that would grant Goku access to restricted areas and information. Son Goku. The director said formally, based on your exceptional performance during the Inchin incident and subsequent evaluations, the International Hunter Association hereby confers upon you the rank of S-Class Hunter, with all associated privileges and responsibilities. Goku accepted the badge, its weight substantial in his palm. Thank you, Director. Don't thank me yet, Wu replied dryly. S rank comes with considerably more scrutiny than you're accustomed to. You'll be expected to respond to priority calls, participate in high-level gate clearings, and submit to regular power assessments. And continued monitoring. Hae-In added from where she stood by the door. The director nodded. Hunter Cha will remain your designated supervisor for the foreseeable future. You'll be joining her team effective immediately. Goku glanced at Hae-In, whose expression revealed nothing of her thoughts on this arrangement. And my shadow abilities, are they still classified? S rank clearance only. The director confirmed. Your official file lists you as a specialist in energy projection and physical enhancement. The shadow extraction aspect remains need to know. Dr. Briefs tapped her tablet, and one of the wall monitors shifted to display a complex diagram of swirling energy patterns. We've been analyzing your dual energy system, the key and shadow energies. They're completely distinct from standard Hunter mana circuits. The diagram zoomed in on a cellular level view, showing energy flowing through what appeared to be Goku's body. Blue streams represented his ki, while darker, almost purple tendrils indicated the shadow energy. Most hunters Briefs explained, draw power from the ambient mana that bleeds through gates. Their bodies evolve specialized circuits to channel this energy. But you, Mr. Sun, you generate ki internally, completely independent of gate influence. And these shadow energies, she shook her head in wonder. They appear to exist in a dimensional frequency we've never documented before. Which means, Goku prompted. Which means, the director interjected, that your power ceiling is currently unknown. And that makes certain people very nervous. Are very interested. Briefs added with scientific enthusiasm. I'd like to run additional tests, if you're willing. Particularly on how you manifest those shadow soldiers. Goku shifted uncomfortably. The casual way she discussed his abilities, like they were merely an interesting research subject, contrasted sharply with the weight he felt each time he called upon the shadows. Maybe later. There's another matter, the director said, his tone growing more serious. The crystal you destroyed at Inchin. He tapped a command, and another monitor displayed image. S of crystal fragments being analyzed in a laboratory. We've recovered similar artifacts from 3 other gates in the past month. All associated with attempted gate connections. Like what happened at Yangju, Goku said. Precisely. These artifacts appear to be fragments of something larger, something that may be attempting to rebuild itself by drawing pieces together through connected gates. Rebuild itself into what? Goku asked, though the cold presence inside him stirred with what felt like recognition. We don't know, the director admitted. But after what happened at Yangju and your intervention at Inchin, we believe there may be a connection to Monarch-class entities. They know more than they're saying, the cold voice whispered in Goku's mind, speaking for the first time since Inchin. Ask about the rulers. Asterisk. What do you know about monarchs? Goku asked, the question emerging more forcefully than he'd intended. The director and Dr. Briefs exchanged quick glances. Hae-In's posture stiffened almost imperceptibly. That's classified beyond even S rank, the director said carefully. But given your unique situation, you've been granted special access to certain historical files. Hunter Cha will brief you. Hae-In nodded once, her expression unreadable. When you're ready. The meeting concluded shortly after, with Dr. Briefs extracting a promise fro. Goku to visit her laboratory, just for a few simple, non-invasive tests. As they exited the director's office, Goku felt the weight of his new S-rank badge in his pocket, a small object that entirely changed his position in the hunter hierarchy. How does it feel? Hae-In asked as they walked toward the elevator, her tone neutral but her eyes watching him carefully. Strange, Goku admitted. 3 weeks ago I was running standard B-rank clearings with my team. Now they're dead, I've got shadows living inside me, and I'm suddenly important enough for private meetings with the director. Something shifted in her expression. Not quite sympathy, but a flicker of understanding. The transition is jarring. When I was promoted to S rank, I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. Goku looked at her with surprise. It was the first personal detail she'd volunteered about herself. Why not? I needed time to process what it meant. The responsibility. The scrutiny. She pressed the elevator call button. The knowledge that people's lives would depend on my decisions in a way they hadn't before. And did you process it? I mean. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. No. Even. Truly, I just accepted that I never would, and got back to work. The elevator arrived, its doors sliding open to reveal two A-rank hunters who fell silent at the sight of Hae-In. Their eyes flickered to Goku. Widened slightly at the platinum badge now clipped to his belt, and they stepped aside respectfully as Hae-In and Goku entered. Basement level 3, Hae-In instructed the elevator's AI, authorizing the request with her palm against a scanner. Access granted, the system confirmed. Descending to restricted research division. The A-rank hunters exchanged significant glances but said nothing as the doors closed. The elevator descended past the ground-level floors, past the standard training facilities and administrative offices, continuing deeper into the earth than Goku had realized the building extended. The association has facilities below ground. He asked. The public association has 12 floors above ground, Hae-In replied. The real association has 27 below. The elevator finally stopped, opening into a sterile white corridor marked with blue stripes. Armed security personnel stood at regular intervals, their eyes tracking Goku and Hae-In as they proceeded down the hallway. What exactly are we doing down here? Goku asked, noting the heavy security doors they passed, each requiring multiple authentication methods. You asked about monarchs, Hae-In said. This is where we keep what little information we have on them. The files are too sensitive for digital storage, they exist only as physical copies, accessible only in this facility. They reached a final security checkpoint where both their identities were verified through retinal scans, DNA sampling, and mana signature analysis. The heavy doors beyond slid open to reveal a room that looked more like an ancient library than a modern research facility. Wooden shelves lined with leather-bound volumes, glass cases containing artifacts, and walls covered with maps and diagrams. A woman looked up from a desk where she had been studying an ancient-looking scroll. Her white lab coat identified her as a researcher, but Goku immediately noted the subtle bulge of a concealed weapon beneath it. This was no ordinary scientist. Hunter Cha, she greeted, her accent marking her as a foreigner, British, perhaps. This is the special consultant. Yes, Hae-In confirmed. S-rank Hunter Son Goku. He has Director Wu's authorization to access the Monarch archives. The woman's gaze traveled over Goku with professional assessment. I'm Drive. Cordelia Hammond, lead archivist for Pre-Gate Historical Anomalies. She extended her hand, which Goku shook. I understand you've manifested shadow extraction abilities. Word travels fast, Goku observed. In restricted circles, yes. Dr. Hammond gestured to a reading area with several comfortable chairs. Please, sit. What specifically are you looking to learn about monarchs? Everything, the cold voice urged, but Goku resisted its push. Let's start with what they are. And their connection to the gates. Dr. Hammond selected several volumes from the shelves, plus a sealed folder with high security markings. The term, Mon-Arch, appears in historical records dating back thousands of years, though always obliquely. Ancient texts from various cultures reference rulers of hidden realms, beings of immense power who existed outside normal human perception. She opened one of the books to a page showing medieval woodcuts of crowned figures surrounded by different elemental forces: fire, ice, beasts, and shadows. They were often categorized by domain: the beast monarch, the frost monarch, the insect monarch, and so forth. And the shadow monarch? Goku asked, his eyes drawn to the dark figure in one corner of the illustration. Dr. Hammond's expression grew more serious. The shadow monarch occupies a unique position in the hierarchy. According to the most reliable texts, he was the only monarch capable of command ing the dead and extracting essence from other beings. She opened the secured folder, revealing photographs of cave paintings, ancient tablets, and crumbling scrolls. These records, collected from sites around the world, suggest that the monarchs waged war against each other in cycles, with long periods of dormancy between conflicts. And then 15 years ago, the gates started appearing, Hae-In added, studying the documents with focused intensity. Yes, drive, Hammond confirmed. Our working theory is that the gates are ruptures between dimensional realms once ruled by the monarchs. Something disrupted the boundaries, creating pathways that had previously been sealed. The monsters that come through the gates, Goku said slowly, connections forming in his mind. They're the armies of these monarchs. Precisely, drive, Hammond said, looking impressed. Each gate type corresponds to a different monarch's domain. Insect-type gates yield chitinous monsters with hive behaviors. Asp-type gates produce predatory creatures with pack hierarchies. And so on. What about shadow-type gates? Goku asked. A silence fell over the room. Dr. Hammond and Hae-In exchanged glances. There are no confirmed shadow-type gates, drive, Hammond finally said. But there have been anomalies. Gates that don't conform to established patterns. Gates that attempt to connect to others. Like Yangju, Goku said. And Inchin. Yes. And in both cases, you were present. She studied him with renewed intensity. Mr. Son, how much do you know about your own abilities? About the voice you hear? Goku stiffened. I never mentioned any voice. You didn't have to. The previous two shadow extractors documented similar experiences, a presence guiding them, teaching them to use their abilities. She knows too much. The cold voice hissed. Be cautious. Asterisk. What happened to them? Goku asked, though he recalled Hae-In mentioning their fates during his initial assessment. The other shadow extractors. Dr. Hammond's expression softened slightly. One died fighting a monarch-class entity that emerged from a gate in North America 4 years ago. The other lost control of his powers. The shadows consumed him from within before he could be contained. Contained? Goku repeated. You mean eliminated. The association protects humanity from gate-related threats, Hae-In said, her tone matter of fact. Sometimes that includes protecting them from hunters who become threats. Is that why you're really monitoring me? Goku asked her directly. To determine when I need to be contained. Something flickered in her gold-flecked eyes. Not guilt, exactly, but a complexity of emotion at odds with her usual stoicism. My assignment is to evaluate and guide. Containment protocols exist, but they're a last resort. Quote. How reassuring. Goku muttered. Dr. Hammond cleared her throat. If I may continue. There's more you should know about the Shadow Monarch specifically. He presented a final document. A translation of what appeared to be an ancient text, the paper yellowed with age. This is from a temple in Mongolia, discovered 30 years before the first gates appeared. It describes the Shadow Monarch as the one who stands between realms, neither living nor dead, keeper of the balance. Goku felt the cold presence stir with greater interest. Unlike other monarchs who sought dominion, drive. Hammond continued, the Shadow Monarch's purpose was supposedly to maintain boundaries between worlds. A guardian rather than a conqueror. Then why the armies? Goku asked. Why the power to extract shadows? Because guardianship sometimes requires force, Hae-In said quietly. Especially against other monarchs. Dr. Hammond nodded. The texts suggest a cycle. Monarchs rise, wage war. Establish dominance, eventually overreach, and then the Shadow Monarch restores balance, often at great personal cost. Half-truths, the cold voice whispered. The archivist knows only fragments. Asterisk. And now the gates are open, Goku said, processing this information against the fractured knowledge that had come with his awakening. The boundaries are broken. And so, Me-One or something is attempting to use gate connections to bring pieces of power together, Hae-In added. The crystals. A monarch trying to reconstitute itself, drive. Hammond confirmed. But which one? We don't know. Goku closed his eyes, feeling the cold power shift inside him. When he opened them again, both women were watching him with barely concealed tension. I need to train, he said abruptly, standing. To understand these shadow abilities better. If what you're saying is true, then I need to master this power, not just contain it. Dr. Hammond looked to Hae-In, who gave a slight nod. The association has facilities designed for S-rank power development, Hae-In said. I'll arrange access. As they prepared to leave, drive. Hammond called after them. Mr. Son. One last thing. She hesitated, then added. The texts indicate that the Shadow Monarch's power grows by extracting shadows from increasingly powerful entities. The stronger the being defeated, the stronger the Shadow Army becomes. Thanks for the tip, Goku said, unsure if it was meant as advice or warning. As they rode the elevator back to the upper levels, Hae-In studied him with uncharacteristic openness. What are you thinking? Goku considered deflecting but opted for honesty. That I'm caught in something much bigger than hunting monsters for a paycheck. That whatever's happening with these gates and monarchs, I'm now directly involved whether I want to be or not. She nodded, accepting his answer. My team is deploying to a training facility in the mountains tomorrow. 3 days of intensive drills before our next assignment. As my new specialist, you're expected to participate. Getting the new guy up to speed. Something like that. The elevator doors opened on the main floor. Be at helipad 4 at 0600. Pack for variable weather conditions. As she turned to leave, Goku called after her. The director said you'd brief me on monarchs. Was that it? A few old books and theories. Hae-In paused, looking back at him. That was the official briefing. The unofficial one happens at the training facility. Away from association monitoring. Her implication was clear. There were ings even the director didn't want recorded in the headquarters. 0600. Goku confirmed. I'll be there. The association's mountain facility turned out to be a repurposed military installation. Nestled in a remote valley 300 kilometers from Seoul. Surrounded by dense forest and rugged peaks, it offered both natural isolation and diverse training environments. Goku surveyed the compound from the helicopter as they approached. Obstacle courses, shooting ranges, simulation domes, and what appeared to be a miniature gate stabilized within a massive containment field. Is that a real gate? He asked, pointing. Beside him, Hae-In nodded. Controlled environment. We capture low-level gates and stabilize them here for training purposes. Safer than field training but more realistic than simulations. The helicopter touched down on a landing pad where 3 people waited, the core of Hae-In's S-rank team. Goku recognized the twins from the Incheon mission, now fully recovered. The third was a woman he hadn't met before, her traditional hanbok contrasting sharply with the tactical gear worn by most hunters. Welcome to the mountain, one of the twins greeted as Goku and Hae-In disembarked. Glad you're joining us permanently. We need the muscle. This is Kim Jun-woo and Kim Jun-ho, Hae-In introduced the identical brothers. Our coordination specialists. They bowed slightly in unison. A synchronized movement that seemed unconscious rather than practiced. Up close, Goku could see subtle differences between them. Jun-woo had a small scar near his right eyebrow, while Jun-ho's eyes held a slightly more serious expression. And this, Hae-In continued, gesturing to the woman in traditional dress, is Jin-ho Seo, our medical specialist and support mage. Jin-ho Seo offered a deeper, more formal bow. Welcome, Hunter-son. Your reputation precedes you. Something about her demeanor caught Goku's attention. Unlike the twins, who regarded him with professional curiosity, Jin-ho Seo's eyes held a deeper awareness, as if she were seeing something beyond his physical presence. Just Goku is fine, he said, returning her bow. I'm still getting used to the whole S-rank formality. Formality is overrated, Jun-woo said with a grin. We save it for the association brass. Out here, we're just hunters trying not to die. Speaking of which, Jun-ho added more seriously. The gate monitor pinged an hour ago. New energy pattern detected in the training gate. Might be worth checking before we start drills. Hae-In nodded. Stow your gear and meet at He containment facility in 20 minutes. The group dispersed, with one of the facility staff leading Goku to his quarters, a spartanly furnished room with a bed, desk, and private bathroom. It was functional but impersonal. Like a high-end military barracks. He had just finished unpacking when a soft knock sounded at his door. Opening it, he found Jin-ho Seo waiting in the hallway, her hands folded demurely before her. I apologize for the intrusion, she said, her voice melodic and formal. But I wondered if I might speak with you privately before we join the others. Curious, Goku gestured for her to enter. She glided into the room with graceful movements, her traditional clothing somehow not hampering her mobility at all. What can I help you with? Goku asked. Jin-ho Seo studied him for a moment. Her head tilted slightly as if listening to something only she could hear. You carry two spirits, she said finally. One warm as the sun, one cold as the void between stars. Goku stiffened. What do you mean? I have an affinity for spiritual energies, she explained. Most hunters develop physical abilities or elemental control, but some of us perceive the more subtle aspects of reality. I sense the energies that flow through living beings. And you sense too in me. She nodded, her expression serene but serious. Your native spirit. Bright, powerful, kind, and another presence, ancient and dark. They coexist in unusual harmony. I wouldn't call it harmony, Goku said wryly. More like an uneasy truce. The balance is precarious, she agreed. But it need not be adversarial. The shadow and the light can complement each other, if properly understood. She knows nothing of true shadow, the cold voice whispered dismissively, but Goku detected a note of uncertainty beneath its disdain. You speak like you've seen this before, Goku said. Jinho Seo's smile held a hint of sadness. My family has served as spiritual healers for 17 generations. The gates brought new challenges. But the fundamental nature of spiritual conflict remains the same. She reached into her sleeve and withdrew a small silk pouch. This is a focus charm. It may help you maintain equilibrium when the shadow rises strongly. Goku accepted the pouch, feeling a subtle warmth emanate from it. Thank you, but I'm not sure I understand why you're helping me. Because balance must be maintained, she said simply. And because those who stand between realms bear the heaviest burdens. She moved toward the door, then paused. Hunter Cha does not fully trust her own instincts regarding you. She senses you are different but cannot determine if that difference represents threat or salvation. And what do you sense? Goku asked. Jinho Seo's gaze seemed to look through him rather than at him. Potential, she said finally. Great potential for both creation and destruction. The choice, I think, will not be as simple as either you or the shadow within you believe. With that cryptic statement, she bowed slightly and departed, leaving Goku holding the silk pouch and wondering just how much more complicated his situation could become. The containment facility dominated the eastern edge of the compound, a massive dome of reinforced concrete and specialized alloys designed to withstand gate energies. Within its center hovered what appeared to be a miniature gate, perhaps 3 meters in diameter, suspended within a framework of energy-dampening technology. We captured this B-rank insect-type gate 2 months ago, Hae-In explained as the team gathered before the containment field. It's been stable until now, producing only standard specimens for training purposes. What changed? Goku asked, studying the gate. Its surface rippled with unusual patterns. Different from the typical gate manifestation. Energy signature shifted approximately 36 hours ago, Junho reported, consulting a monitoring device. Mana frequency now include S, a secondary harmonic we haven't documented before. Similar to the fluctuations at Inchin before the crystal manifested, Hae-In added, giving Goku a significant look. Jinho Seo approached the containment field. Her expression distant as she placed her palm near the energy barrier. There's a resonance, she murmured. Something calling. The twins exchanged glances. Calling to what? Jun Woo asked. Jinho Seo's eyes flickered briefly toward Goku. To power. To shadow. She is correct, the cold voice confirmed in Goku's mind. Something seeks connection. Asterisk. I can feel it too, Goku admitted. Similar to Inchin. But weaker. Hae-In made a quick decision. We need to investigate before it destabilizes. Standard containment protocol. Junwoo, Junho, perimeter security. Jinho Seo, energy monitoring. Goku and I will make primary assessment. The team moved with practiced efficiency, the twins taking up positions that would allow them to intercept anything emerging from the gate while Jinho Seo began a ritual that created a secondary containment field, a shimmering barrier of blue-white energy that supplemented the mechanical systems. Ready for your first official S-rank operation? Hae-In asked as she and Goku approached the gate. As ready as I'll ever be, he replied, rolling his shoulders to loosen the tension that had been building since Jinho Seo's visit to his quarters. Hae-In activated her sword, the runes along its blade glowing with blue energy. Stay close. These controlled gates can be unpredictable when they change pattern. They stepped through the containment field and into the gate's influence. The familiar disorientation washed over them, reality bending as they transitioned from the facility to whatever space lay beyond. When the sensation passed, they stood in a vast chamber that looked nothing like the insect hive environment this gate had previously manifested. Instead, they found themselves in what appeared to be an ancient library. Massive bookshelves stretching into darkness, scrolls and tomes gathering dust on tables, and crystal lamps emitting soft, bluish light. This isn't right, Hae-In said tensely, her sword at ready position. This gate has always produced standard insect-type environments. Never anything like this. Goku scanned their surroundings, his senses alert for threats. It feels artificial. Constructed, like the temple at Incheon. They moved cautiously through the library, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. The air smelled of old paper and a strange, metallic tang that Goku couldn't identify. No monster signatures detected, Hae-In reported after a minute of careful progress. But something's here. I can sense it. They reached a circular clearing among the bookshelves where a pedestal stood, supporting a large, open book. Its pages glowed with the same blue light as the crystal lamps, illuminating strange symbols that seemed to shift when viewed directly. Don't touch it, Hae-In warned as Goku leaned closer to examine the book. I wasn't planning to, he assured her. But I think this is what's causing the energy fluctuations. It's trying to communicate something. The symbols on the page began to rearrange themselves, forming patterns that gradually resolved into recognizable script, an ancient language slowly translating itself into modern Korean. The balance falters. Goku read aloud as the words became legible. The monarchs stir from slumber. The beast rises first, gathering fragments of power long scattered. More words appeared. The shadow must awaken to restore the boundary. Single quote. As Goku read these words, the cold presence within him surged forward with sudden interest. A pressure built behind his eyes, and his vision darkened at the edges. Goku. Hae-In's voice seemed distant. Your eyes, they're changing. He barely heard her, transfixed by the text that continued to form on the page. Find the fragments before the beast. The first lies where the fire meets water. Guarded by the servants of scale and flame. The book suddenly slammed shut, a pulse of energy knocking both hunters backward. The library around them began to dissolve. Bookshelves crumbling into swarms of insects that converged toward the center of the chamber. We need to leave, Hae-In shouted, slashing at insects that flew too close. The gate is reverting to type. Goku shook his head, trying to clear the pressure behind his eyes. The cold presence receded reluctantly, leaving him momentarily disoriented. Right. Exit point. Hae-In activated a device on her wrist, which projected a directional indicator. This way. They ran through the disintegrating library, dodging falling debris and swarms of increasingly aggressive insects. The gate's stable environment was collapsing, morphing back into the dangerous monster nest it had originally been. As they approached the exit coordinates, a massive creature burst through the floor before them, a colossal centipede with armored segments and dripping mandibles. It screeched, rearing up to strike. That wasn't here before, Hae-In shouted, diving to avoid its first attack. The gate's producing new monsters. Goku didn't hesitate. He launched himself at the creature, his fist connecting with its head with enough force to crack its armored carapace. The monster reeled back but quickly recovered, its segmented body whipping around to strike from another angle. Hae-In moved with fluid grace, her sword slicing through one of the creature's legs. We're 30 seconds from the exit point, she called. We need to clear a path. The centipede screeched again, and the sound was answered by more chittering from the darkness. Additional monsters were converging on their position. Go for the exit, Goku said, settling into a fighting stance. I'll hold them off. Negative, Hae-In replied sharply. We exit together or not at all. The determination in her voice surprised H.I.M., a concern that went beyond professional responsibility. Before he could respond, the centipede struck again, its mandibles narrowly missing him as he leapt aside. Use me, the cold voice urged. Draw on the shadow. Asterisk. Goku hesitated only briefly before reaching for that cold power. Shadows gathered around his hands, extending his reach and sharpening his strikes. He wasn't fully deploying the shadow soldiers, but augmenting his natural abilities with the shadow's power. His next punch penetrated the centipede's armor completely, his shadow-enhanced fist bursting through its head in a spray of ichor. The creature collapsed, its segments twitching in death throes. More monsters emerged from the darkness. Smaller versions of the centipede, accompanied by beetle-like creatures with razor-sharp pincers. They formed a living barrier between the hunters and their exit point. 20 seconds to gate collapse, Hae-In reported, her sword weaving a defensive pattern as the first wave of smaller monsters reached them. We need a breakthrough. Now. Goku gathered his ki, not the shadow power but his original energy, into a concentrated point between his palms. Ka-mi-ha-mi-ha. The Bloss. Tea of blue energy carved a path through the swarm, vaporizing dozens of monsters and momentarily clearing a route to the exit coordinates. Run! He shouted, and they sprinted through the opening, monsters closing in from all sides. The exit shimmered ahead, a distortion in the air marking the transition point back to the containment facility. They leapt through just as the gate environment collapsed completely behind them. The shrieking of thwarted monsters cut off as they rematerialized in the facility's containment dome. Seal it, Hae-In ordered as they stumbled through, and Jin-Ho Coi immediately strengthened her barrier while facility technicians activated emergency containment protocols. The gate within the dome pulsed violently, its surface rippling with chaotic energy before suddenly stabilizing. Returning to its previous dormant state. What the hell was that? Jung-Woo demanded as the team regrouped. The monitors went crazy, energy readings off the charts. The gate changed configuration, Hae-In explained. Catching her breath, manifested some kind of library or archive. Then it tried to revert to insect type with heightened aggression. A library? Jun-Ho repeated skeptically. Gates don't create libraries. This one did, Goku confirmed. And it contained a message. Something about Monarch's awakening and fragments of power. Jin-Ho Seo's eyes widened. The resonance I sensed. It was attempting communication. With who? Jung-Woo asked. All eyes turned to Goku. I think we need to have that unofficial briefing now, he said to Hae-In, who nodded grimly. Secure room 3. She instructed the team. Full privacy protocols. What we discuss there stays there. Secure room 3 turned out to be a bunker-like chamber beneath the main facility. Its walls lined with signal-blocking materials and anti-surveillance countermeasures. A simple table with 5 chairs occupied the center, illuminated by recessed lighting that cast no shadows. A design feature Goku suspected was intentional. When the heavy door sealed behind them, Hae-In activated additional security measures before addressing her team. What I'm about to share is classified beyond S rank, she began. Known only to a handful of individuals within the association leadership and select field operatives. She looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. If this information were to spread, it would cause widespread panic and potentially compromise humanity's response to the gate crisis. The twins exchanged glances but remained silent. Jin-Ho Seo folded her hands calmly on the table, her expression serene despite the gravity of Hae-In's tone. For the past year, gate behavior has been changing globally, Hae-In continued. Attempted connections between gates, emergence of artifacts like the crystal at Incheon, and now this, direct communication through manipulated gate environments. Communication from who? Jun-Ho asked. We believe it's from the original creators of the gates, entities known as monarchs. Hae-In proceeded to explain what Goku had learned in the association archives, but with additional details that hadn't been included in official briefing. Incidents around the world where monarch-level entities had briefly manifested, the true casualty figures from those encounters, and the association's growing concern that something catastrophic was building. The monarchs aren't just powerful monsters, she concluded. They're intelligent beings from parallel dimensions who once had access to our world before something sealed the barriers between realms. Now those barriers are failing, and the monarchs are attempting to return. And they want what, exactly? Jung-Woo asked. To conquer Earth. Enslave humanity. The usual megalomaniac stuff. Their motives aren't fully understood, Hae-In admitted. But historical records suggest they view our dimension as territory to be claimed and ruled. Different monarchs control different elemental domains, beasts, insects, plants, frost, and so forth. And shadows, Goku added quietly. Hae-In nodded. Which brings us to the current situation. The message in the gate mentioned the beast monarch rising first, seeking fragments of power. This aligns with intelligence we've gathered from gate incidents worldwide. She activated a small projector in the center of the table, which displayed a map marking gate anomalies across the globe. These red points indicate suspected beast monarch activity, gates producing unusually powerful beast-type monsters, often with greater intelligence than standard specimens. And the blue points? Jin-Ho Seo asked, indicating a smaller number of markers. Shadow activity, Hae-In said, her eyes flickering to Goku. Rare, but increasing since Yangju. The implication hung heavy in the air. So I'm what? The Shadow Monarch's representative? Goku asked, voicing what everyone was thinking. His vessel or something. That's our working theory, Hae-In confirmed. The previous shadow extractors exhibited similar patterns, unusual knowledge, communication through gates, and a progressive increase in abilities consistent with He Shadow Monarch's historical description. But neither of them fully manifested the monarch's power, Jin-Ho Seo observed. They were vessels that failed. Goku frowned. Failed how? One burnt out, Jun-Ho said bluntly. His body couldn't contain the power. The other lost his mind. The shadow consumed his personality until nothing remained of the original hunter. That's reassuring, Goku muttered. You're different, Jin-Ho Seo said with quiet certainty. Your spiritual energy is unusually strong, independent of the shadow. It creates a balance the others lacked. Which is why the association hasn't terminated you. Jung Woo added with characteristic directness. You're the best chance we've had at accessing monarch-level power without the usual nasty side effects. Tactfully put, his brother said dryly. Hae-In redirected the conversation. The message mentioned fragments of power, specifically that the beast monarch is gathering them. We believe these are related to the crystals we've encountered. Like batteries, Goku suggested, the knowledge rising from that cold place inside him. Containers of concentrated power that the monarchs stored in our world before the barriers sealed. Exactly. Hae-In confirmed. And according to the message, we need to find these fragments before the beast monarch does. Where fire meets water, guarded by servants of scale and flame, Goku recited from memory. Any idea what that means? The twins looked blank, but Jin-Ho Seo's eyes lit with recognition. The volcanic islands of the southern sea, she said. There's an active underwater volcano chain near Jeju Island where legends speak of dragon guardians, creatures of scale and flame that live between fire and water. Dragons aren't real, Jung-Woo scoffed. Perhaps not literal dragons, Jin-Ho Seo conceded. But gate monsters adapting to local mythology often take forms reminiscent of regional legends. We've seen it with kitsune-type creatures in Japan and Wendigo manifestations in North America. Hae-In was already checking data on her tablet. There have been unusual gate readings in the Jeju Sea region for the past 2 weeks. The association yet monitoring buoys but hasn't authorized a direct investigation yet. Then that's where we're going, Goku said with certainty. Hae-In raised an eyebrow. The association hasn't approved an operation. Do we need their approval? Goku challenged. If what we learned in that gate is true, we don't have time for bureaucracy. The beast monarch is already moving. The twins exchanged glances. He's got a point, Jun-Ho said. By the time headquarters processes the reports and authorizes action, we could lose the fragment. And if we're wrong, Hae-In countered. If we divert S-rank Riso RCES based on a cryptic message from a compromised gate, then we face disciplinary action, Jung-Woo said with a shrug. Wouldn't be the first time. Jin-Ho Seo had been silent, her eyes closed in what appeared to be deep concentration. The resonance continues, she said suddenly. Even here, I can feel it, a pull toward the southern sea. Whatever awaits there is powerful, and awakening. Hae-In considered this, her tactical mind visibly weighing options and consequences. Finally, she nodded. I'll request an extended training exercise in the southern maritime region. It's not a direct lie. We are training. Just with a specific objective. How soon can we deploy? Goku asked. Tomorrow morning, Hae-In decided. That gives us time for one proper training session as a team before we head into potentially Monarch-class danger. Her eyes settled on Goku. And you need practice integrating your abilities with our team tactics. The meeting concluded with assignment of preparatio N tasks. The twins would handle equipment and transportation logistics, Jin-Ho Seo would research historical records of the target area, and Hae-In would manage the bureaucratic maneuvering necessary Oh, get them field clearance without revealing their true objective. As the others filed out, Hae-In asked Goku to remain behind. There's something else you should know, she said once they were alone. Something not in any official record. Goku waited, sensing the gravity of what was coming. 3 years ago, my previous team encountered what we now believe was a beast Monarch fragment in northern China. We weren't prepared. The power it released. She paused, a flash of old pain crossing her face. I was the only survivor. And I only survived because something protected me, a shadow that appeared from nowhere, shielding me from the energy blast that killed the others. Goku stared at her. You think it was connected to the Shadow Monarch? To what's happening to me now? I don't know, she admitted. But ever since, I've been able to sense shadows differently. It's why I was assigned to the previous shadow extractor, and now to you. She met his gaze directly. Whatever's happening, whatever you're becoming, it's part of something that's been unfolding for years. Maybe decades. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know that my interest in your case isn't purely professional. A hint of vulnerability showed through her composed exterior. Finding answers about what happened to my team, about what saved me, matters to me personally. It was the most human he'd seen her. A glimpse beneath the efficient S-rank exterior to the person beneath. Goku found himself wanting to know more about that person, about what drove her beyond duty and protocol. I understand, he said simply. And I'll help you find those answers if I can. Something shifted in her expression. Not quite a smile, but a softening. Thank you. Now get some rest. Training begins at 0500, and you'll need your strength. The training field glowed with pre-dawn light, mist clinging to the ground as Goku faced off against the twins. Their curved blades whistled through the air as they attacked from opposite sides. Their movements so perfectly synchronized they seemed to share a single consciousness. Goku had been holding his own for 15 minutes, relying solely on his martial arts training and ki enhancement without drawing on the shadow power. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he ducked under Jun Woo's slash while simultaneously blocking Jun Ho's strike with his forearm. Not bad, Jun Woo acknowledged, spinning away to reset his position. But you're still thinking too individually. S-rank teams function as unified systems, Jun Ho added, not even breathing hard despite the intense sparring. Each member anticipating and complementing the others. From her position at the edge of the training field, Hae-In observed critically. He's right. You fight like a solo hunter. Effective but isolated. You need to integrate. Goku rolled his shoulders, preparing for the next exchange. I've always worked with teams. This is different. S-rank is different, Hae-In confirmed. The threats we face require perfect coordination. Jun Woo, Jun Ho, demonstration. The twins nodded and turned toward a series of training dummies at the far end of the field. Moving in perfect unison, they executed a complex attack pattern that created cascading energy waves between their blades, multiplying their effective striking power. Harmonic resonance, Jin Ho Coe. Explained from where she maintained a practice barrier nearby. Their individual mana signatures are calibrated to reinforce each other. It's why twins are so valued for elite hunter teams. And you need to find your place in that harmony. Hae-In said, approaching Goku. Your power is immense but raw. Unmodulated. In a coordinated team, that can be as dangerous as it is useful. She drew her sword, its runes glowing softly in the dim light. Spar with me. Show me how you adapt. The twins stepped back, giving them space. Jin Ho Coe strengthened her barrier around the perimeter, containing any stray energy discharges. Hae-In settled into her ready stance, balanced, economical, with no wasted movement. Goku mirrored her, curious to test himself against her directly after observing her skill at Inshin. She moved first, closing the distance with deceptive speed. Her sword became a blur of motion, testing his defenses from multiple angles in rapid succession. Goku evaded rather than blocked. Recognizing the energy enhancement running through her blade would make direct contact dangerous. You rely too much on reaction, she noted as they circled each other after the initial exchange. S-rank combat requires prediction. Quote. She attacked again, but this time Goku saw the pattern, a feint to his left followed by a true strike to his right shoulder. Instead of simply evading, he moved to counter. his palm striking toward her blade arm while his legs swept toward her ankles. Hae-In adjusted instantly, converting her attack into a defensive spin that carried her beyond his reach. Better, she acknowledged, but still thinking in singular exchanges. The twins had resumed their positions at the edge of the training area, watching with professional interest. He's holding back, Jun-Ho observed to his brother. Not accessing his full abilities. Wouldn't you? Jun-Woo replied. If you had something like that inside you. Goku heard their exchange despite the distance, an other enhancement of his senses since the awakening. I'm trying to learn control, he called to them. Shadow power isn't exactly subtle. Neither are Monarch class threats, Hae-In countered, sing her attack with increased intensity. Her sword left trails of blue light in the air as she executed a complex series of strikes that forced Goku to give ground. In the field, hesitation means death. She scored a glancing hit on his upper arm, the energy-enhanced blade slicing through his GI and drawing blood. The wound was minor but made her point effectively. She tests your restraint, the cold voice whispered. Show her what we truly are. Asterisk. Goku felt the familiar cold stirring inside him, the shadow power responding to the challenge and the spilled blood. For a moment, he considered suppressing it as he had been doing throughout the training session. Then he remembered Jin-Ho Seo's words about balance and the small charm she had given him, now tucked into his belt. Instead of fighting the shadow or surrendering to it, he reached for both energies simultaneously, his native ki and the shadow power, attempting to blend them rather than switch between them. The result was immediate and visually striking. Blue ki energy surrounded his body in a familiar aura, but now threaded with tendrils of darkness that moved with serpentine grace. His eyes glowed with the same dual energy, blue light rimmed with shadow. Hae-In paused, her sword at ready position. That's new, she observed, her voice carefully neutral but her eyes alert with interest. Goku looked down at his hands, where the blended energies swirled in fascinating patterns. It feels different, more controlled. Test it, she suggested, resuming her fighting stance. This time when she attacked, Goku met her directly. The blended energy enhanced his speed and strength beyond what either power could achieve independently, allowing him to match her sword strikes with bare hands surrounded by energy fiel ds that protected his flesh from her blade. They exchanged a flurry of attacks too fast for normal vision to track, their movements leaving trails of blue and shadow in the air. Where Hae-In was precision and economy, Goku was adaptation and innovation, his fighting style evolving moment by moment as he integrated the new energy balance. After several minutes of intense exchange, Hae-In leapt back. A thin sheen of sweat on her forehead, the first sign of exertion she'd shown. Enough, she said, though her voice held approval rather than concern. You learn quickly. Goku let the blended energy subside, feeling a curious harmony between the two forces that had previously been in conflict. The cold presence seemed satisfied rather than thwarted, as if this integration was an acceptable compromise. That, Jun-Woo declared, was definitely S rank. Beyond S rank, his brother corrected. I've never seen energy manipulation like that outside theoretical models. Jin-Ho Seo approached, her expression thoughtful. The charm is helping. Goku nodded. It's like a focal point. Something that helps me direct both energies instead of switching between them. Balance, she said with satisfaction. As I suspected, your natural energy is unusually compatible with the shadow, unlike previous vessels who were overwhelmed. Hae-In sheathed her sword, studying Goku with new assessment. Can you maintain that energy balance while coordinating with team movements? I think so, Goku said. It feels more controlled than using shadow alone. Then let's put it to the test. Shish. He gestured toward the controlled gate facility visible in the distance. Live exercise in 1 hour. Full team deployment, coordinated tactics against captured monsters. As the team dispersed to prepare, Hae-In fell into step beside Goku. That was impressive, she said, her tone professional but with an undercurrent of genuine approval. Most hunters take months to integrate new abilities into their combat style. I've been training in martial arts since I could walk, Goku explained. My grandfather taught me that the key to mastering new techniques is to flow with them, not force them. Seems to apply to shadow powers too. Your grandfather sounds wise. He was. A shadow of old grief passed across Goku's face. He died before the gates appeared. Sometimes I wonder what he would think of all this: monsters, gates, hunters, me turning into whatever I'm becoming. Something in his expression must have caught her attention, because Hae-In's response held unexpected warmth. Based on how he trained you, I think he prepared you for extraordinary challenges, even if he couldn't have predicted this specific one. The observation was surprisingly insightful, and Goku found him self-appreciating this glimpse of Hae-In's perceptiveness beyond tactical assessment. Thanks, he said simply. I think you might be right. Dash dash dash. The live exercise proved more challenging than Goku had anticipated. The controlled gate facility contained 3 distinct training environments, each housing different monster types captured for hunter training. Hae-In's team rotated through all 3, practicing coordinated tactics against increasingly dangerous opponents. By the 3rd environment, a simulated forest habitat containing beast-type monsters, Goku was maintaining the blended energy state with relative ease, integrating his movements with the team's established patterns. The twins flanked high-priority targets, creating openings that Goku exploited with precise energy strikes. Hae-In maintained protective barriers while amplifying everyone's abilities through support magic. And Hae-In coordinated everything, her sword techniques and tactical commands guiding the team like a conductor leading an orchestra. They had just finished clearing a particularly challenging wave of wolf-like monsters when the facility alarms blared unexpectedly. Unscheduled gate activation, announced the automated system. Unknown energy signature detected. All personnel evacuate immediately. Hae-In activated her communications device. Control room, this is Hunter Cha. Status report. Gate malfunction in training environment B, came the tense response. Energy readings spiking beyond containment parameters. Sir, it's trying to connect to something. Goku and Hae-In exchanged significant looks. Just like the library gate, he said. She nodded grimly. Team, converge on environment B. This isn't a drill anymore. They sprinted through the facility's connecting corridors, passing technicians and support staff evacuating in the opposite direction. Environment B, a simulated urban setting for practicing city-based gate clearings, was already showing signs of destabilization when they arrived. The training gate at its center, normally a stable 2-meter portal, had expanded to nearly fill the space, its surface roiling with chaotic energy. That's not supposed to be possible, Junho said, activating his blade's energy enhancement. These training gates are severed from their original connections. Something's reconnecting it, Hae-In observed, her sword already drawn. Junho, can you sense what's happening? The healer closed her eyes, extending her perceptive abilities toward the disturbance. It's searching, she reported, her voice tight with concentration. Seeking a specific frequency, a specific power. All eyes turned to Goku. Me? He asked, though he already felt the pull, the same resonance he'd experienced with the library gate. Not you specifically. Junho clarified. The shadow within you. The monarchs are aware of each other across dimensions. They sense the awakening. The gate pulsed violently, the simulated urban environment around them beginning to warp and distort. Buildings twisted into impossible shapes, streets rippled like liquid, and the artificial sky darkened to an unnatural crimson. We need to stabilize it or shut it down, Hae-In decided. Assessing the rapidly deteriorating situation. Standard containment formation. The team moved to encircle the gate, each taking a position corresponding to their role. Junho began a complex incantation, her traditional robes billowing as she channeled stabilizing energy into the environment. The twins established a perimeter, ready to intercept anything that might emerge. Hae-In approached the gate's edge, her sword glowing with intense blue energy as she prepared to execute a containment technique. Goku, I need you to. She never finished the sentence. The gate suddenly expanded with explosive force, knocking all of them backward. When the disorientation cleared, Goku realized the entire training environment had been consumed by the gate. Energy. They were no longer in the facility but somewhere else entirely. A vast, barren plain stretched in all directions, the ground cracked and dry beneath a blood-red sky. In the distance, mountain house shapes moved with deliberate purpose, too large and too fluid to be natural formations. Where are we? Jung Woo asked, helping his brother to his feet. Not where, Hae-In corrected grimly. When? This isn't a place, it's a memory. She is correct, the cold voice confirmed in Goku's mind. A memory of the war. The last war of monarchs. Asterisk. The ground trembled as one of the distant mountain-sized shapes changed direction, moving toward them with increasing speed. As it drew closer, its true nature became apparent. A colossal beast, its body covered in fur and scales in impossible combination. Multiple heads swaying on serpentine necks. The beast monarch, Jinho Seo whispered, her face pale. Or a memory of it. We need to get back, Junho said urgently. This isn't a fight we can win. Hae-In was already activating her emergency recall device, standard equipment for S-rank hunters that created a forced return to their point of origin. Signals not connecting, she reported tensely. The dimensional frequency is too different. The beast monarch continued its approach, now close enough that they could see smaller creatures swarming around its feet, an army of lesser monsters serving the gigantic entity. It cannot harm you, the cold voice said. This is merely an echo of what was. A message, like the library. Asterisk. It's not real, Goku told the others. At least, not physically present. It's showing us something, trying to communicate. As if responding to his words, the scene shifted. The beast monarch and its army faded, replaced by images that flashed rapidly bef. Or them, gates opening across a primitive Earth, monsters pouring through, early humans fighting desperately against overwhelming forces. Then new figures appeared, human in shape but radiating power beyond mortal capacity. Each commanded elements corresponding to different monarch domains: beasts, insects, plants, frost, and others. They fought against the invading monsters, pushing them back through the gates. The first hunters, Jinho Seo realized, vessels who accepted monarch powers to defend humanity. The images continued, showing the vessels eventually turning against each other as the monarchs' influences corrupted them, leading to devastation worse than the monster invasions. Finally, a single figure appeared, cloaked in shadow but with eyes that glowed with the same blue rim. Ed with darkness energy that Goku had manifested. This figure moved between the warring vessels, extracting shadows from fallen enemies and growing stronger with each acquisition. The original Shadow Monarch, Hae-In said, watching intently. Or its first vessel. The shadow figure eventually confronted the beast vessel in a cataclysmic battle that reshaped the landscape. Neither emerged victorious. But the conflict ended with the gates closing, the boundaries between dimensions sealed once more. A final image appeared. 7 crystalline objects scattered across the earth, each pulsing with monarch energy. Then darkness. The vision ended abruptly, reality snapping back into place. They found themselves in the ruins of Training Environment B. The gate now collapsed to a small, inert circle on the floor. For several moments, no one spoke, each processing what they had witnessed. 7 fragments, Goku finally said, breaking the silence. 7 pieces of monarch power hidden on Earth. And the beast monarch's vessel is already gathering them, Hae-In added. Just as the message in the library gate warned. Jung-Woo ran a hand through his hair, visibly shaken. So or what? Opposed to find these fragments before this beast guy does. Based on 1,000-year-old visions from a malfunctioning gate. Yes, Goku and Jinho Seo said simultaneously. Junho looked between them. You both seem very certain about this. The resonance is undeniable, Jinho Seo explained. What we witnessed wasn't random. It was directed. Specifically to us, specifically now. Because of me, Goku acknowledged. Because of what's awakening inside me. Hae-In studied him thoughtfully. The vision showed the original Shadow Monarch's vessel creating an army from fallen enemies. Just like you're beginning to do. But it also showed all the vessels eventually corrupted by monarch influence, Junho pointed out. Fighting each other for dominance. That's why balance matters, Jinho Seo said, looking at Goku. Why integrating the shadow with your native energy is crucial. The previous vessels were consumed because they had no counterbalance to the monarch power. Facility security personnel began arriving, surveying the damaged environment with alarm. Hae-In quickly took command of the situation, instructing them to establish a perimeter while she reported to facility leadership. We need to move up our timeline, she told her team quietly. If the visions are accurate, we don't have much time before the Beast Monarch's vessel locates the next fragment. Jeju Island, Goku confirmed. Where fire meets water. I'll make arrangements, Hae-In decided. We leave in 3 hours. As the team dispersed to prepare, Goku remained behind, studying the collapsed gate. The cold presence within him felt more integrated now, less like a separate entity and more like an extension of himself. Still distinct, still ancient, but somehow aligned with his purpose in a way it hadn't been before. Was that your memory? He asked silently. The war we saw. Yes and no, came the response, clearer than before. Memories of the first vessel who carried my essence, as you do now. But that cycle ended in failure. Asterisk. And this cycle, what makes it different? You, the voice replied simply. Your key, your life force, is unlike any vessel before. It does not yield to shadow but complements it. Together, we may succeed where others failed. Asterisk. Succeed at what, exactly? Goku pressed. Collecting fragments. Stopping the beast monarch. What's your endgame here? The presence was silent for a moment. As if considering how much to reveal. Balance, it finally answered. The gates should never have reopened. The boundaries must be restored before all monarchs fully manifest in your world. But to close the gates permanently requires power, power contained in the fragments. Asterisk. So we find the fragments, use them to close the gates, and that's it. You go back to sleep or whatever you were doing before Yangju. Quote. Again, that calculating silence. We shall see what is possible when the time comes. For now, our interests align, prevent the beast monarch from gathering the fragments and secure them ourselves. Asterisk. It wasn't a complete answer, but Goku sensed it was all he would get for now. The shadow presence receded into that cold corner of his mind, leaving him alone. With his thoughts and the smoldering remains of the training environment. 3 hours later, the team assembled on the facility's helipad, equipment packed and loaded for immediate deployment. Hae-In had successfully obtained authorization for what the association records would show as an extended maritime training exercise in the Jeju region, technically true, if significantly understating their actual objective. Dr. Briefs had arrived unexpectedly, having flown in from association headquarters after receiving data from the gate incident. She approached Goku as he was stowing his minimal personal gear aboard the helicopter. Fascinating energy readings from the training environment, she said by way of greeting. The monitoring systems recorded your blended energy state. It's unlike anything we've documented before. Good morning to you too, Drive. Briefs, Goku replied with wry amusement. I'm fine, thanks for asking. She blinked, then smiled sheepishly. Sorry. Scientific enthusiasm tends to override my social protocols. How are you adapting to the changes? Better, I think. Found a way to balance the shadow power with my ki instead of switching between them. Yes, I saw the readings. She handed him a small device that resembled a watch. This is an experimental monitor I developed after studying your energy patterns. It'll track the balance between your dual energy systems and alert you if either begins to dominate. Goku accepted the device, strapping it to his wrist. Thanks. That could be useful. It also transmits data to my lab, she added, her enthusiasm returning. Completely anonymized, of course, but the research potential is enormous. We've never been able to study Monarch adjacent energy in real time before. Glad my existential crisis can advance science, Goku said dryly. But without real annoyance. Dr. Brief's scientific enthusiasm was genuine and oddly endearing. Oh, it absolutely will, she confirmed, missing his sarcasm entirely. The applications for hunter equipment alone could revolutionize how we approach gate clearings. And if we can better understand how your native ki interacts with the shadow energy, we might develop methods to help other hunters achieve similar harmonization with their abilities. Hae-In approached, interrupting the scientist's enthusiastic speculations. Dr. Briefs, I wasn't informed you'd be joining this operation. I'm not. The scientist clarified. Just delivering some equipment and collecting preliminary data before you deploy. The director wanted a complete scientific assessment of what happened in the training environment. And your assessment is? Hae-In prompted. Dr. Brief's expression grew more serious. That we're witnessing the early stages of a monarch awakening, the most controlled one on record. Thanks to Goku's unusual dual energy system. But still progressing faster than our models predicted. She glanced at Goku. The harmonization you've achieved is promising. But there's something you should both know. Based on data from previous shadow extractors and historical records, each significant shadow extraction accelerates the awakening process. The more powerful the entity you extract from, the faster the progression. Meaning what, exactly? Goku asked. Meaning that if you encounter a high-level monster and extract its shadow, the balance you've established could shift dramatically. The Shadow Monarch's influence would increase proportionally to the power absorbed. Hae-In absorbed this information with characteristic composure. Is there a threshold? A point of no return? Theoretically, yes. Our models suggest that once shadow extraction reaches a certain cumulative power level, the original personality would be effectively overridden. She looked apologetically at Goku. You'd still exist physically, but the dominant consciousness would be the Shadow Monarchs. That's not going to happen, Goku said with simple certainty. I've never backed down from a challenge, and I'm not starting now. Dr. Briefs smiled. Your confidence is either inspiring or concerning. I haven't decided which. But the monitor should help you my NTAIN awareness of where you stand on that threshold. A facility technician approached, informing Hae-In that their flight clearance had been approved. Dr. Briefs wished them success and stepped back as the team boarded the helicopter. As the aircraft lifted off, Goku found himself seated across from Jinho Seo, who studied him with that same penetrating gaze that seemed to see beyond physical appearance. You're concerned about what drive? Briefs said. She observed quietly, her voice pitched below the sound of the rotors so only he could hear. Wouldn't you be? Goku replied. Finding out. There's a countdown timer on your own personality isn't exactly reassuring. There are techniques that may help, she offered. Spiritual practices my family has maintained for generations, designed to strengthen one's core essence against external influences. I'd appreciate any help you can offer, Goku said sincerely. She nodded, then hesitated before adding, there's something else you should know. When I look at your spiritual energy now, after the vision gate, it's different. Different how? More integrated. The shadow and your native energy are beginning to harmonize at a deeper level than before. It's not just coexistence anymore, it's synthesis. Goku considered this. As that good or bad? Neither inherently. But it suggests that the outcome may not be as binary as Dr. Briefs described. Perhaps the result won't be either Goku or the Shadow Monarch, but something new, a true union of both essences. The idea was both intriguing and unsettling. Goku had been thin, king of his situation as a battle for control, his will against the ancient presence trying to consume him. But what if it was more complex? What if the end result was neither victory nor defeat but transformation? She sees clearly. The cold voice commented, its tone thoughtful rather than dismissive. Such an outcome was never possible with previous vessels. Their spirits were too weak, too easily dominated. You are different. Asterisk. The helicopter banked southward, beginning its 3-hour journey to Jeju Island. Through the window, Goku watched the mountain facility recede into the distance. Struck by how quickly his life had changed. 3 weeks ago, he'd been a B-rank hunter focused on making enough money for his next meal. Now he was flying toward a confrontation with Monarch-level powers. His own identity evolving with each passing day. Across the cabin, Hae-In caught his eye. She didn't smile. That wasn't her style, but something in her gaze conveyed understanding. She too knew what it meant to have life transformed by forces beyond control, to adapt to a new reality that defied previous expectations. In that shared moment of recognition, Goku felt an unexpected connection forming. Not just professional respect but something deeper, a bond forged through shared experience of the extraordinary. The helicopter continued southward, carrying them toward Jeju Island and whatever awaited them where fire met water. Guarded by servants of scale and flame. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Shadow Legion. Jeju Island's southeastern coast shimmered under late afternoon sunlight, too. Tourist beaches largely empty as autumn winds swept across the shore. Most visitors had retreated to the island's famous resorts and restaurants, leaving only a few determined photographers capturing a dramatic seascape where volcanic cliffs met thrashing waves. None noticed the unmarked association vessel cutting through choppy waters a kilometer offshore, its hull specially reinforced against both conventional and supernatural threats. Below deck, Goku studied nautical charts spread across a planning table while Jinho Seo performed a traditional scrying ritual beside him, her hands moving over a bowl of seawater collected from their destination. The underwater volcano chain extends 17 kilometers. Goku traced the formation on the map. But this area here, his finger circled a point where multiple volcanic vents clustered, shows the strongest thermal anomalies. Where fire meets water, Junho quoted from across the table, meticulously checking his curved blade's edge. Matches the seismic readings too. His twin added, examining data on a tablet. Unusual activity for the past 3 weeks, but nothing catastrophic enough to trigger regular monitoring protocols. The ship lurched as it hit a particularly aggressive wave, sending nautical instruments sliding across surfaces despite their magnetic attachments. None of the hunters reacted to the violent motion. Their enhanced reflexes and balance compensating automatically. Something stirs below, Jinho Seo murmured, her eyes milky white as she gazed into the scrying bowl. Ancient. Slumbering. Awakening. Hae-In entered the cabin. Saltwater dripping from her tactical wetsuit. She'd been scouting the area personally, diving deeper than standard equipment would allow thanks to her enhanced physical capabilities. There's a cave system leading into the volcanic structure, she reported, toweling her short blonde hair. Normally submerged, but parts become accessible during extreme low tide. She checked a digital chronometer on the wall, which gives us a 40-minute window starting in 3 hours. What about association patrols? Goku asked. This close to Jeju, there should be regular monitoring. Diverted. Hae-In replied with the barest hint of smugness. I convinced headquarters the unusual readings warranted a specialized S-rank exploration team with exclusive access. They redirected standard patrols for 24 hours. Jung Woo whistled, impressed. Nice to see the Ice Queen's reputation has its uses. A subtle tightening around Hae-In's eyes was the only indication she'd heard the nickname. Goku had noticed the twins used it occasionally, not maliciously, but with the casual familiarity of long-term teammates. He'd also noticed Hae-In never acknowledged it directly. We'll approach from the southeast during the tidal window, she continued, all business. Standard exploration formation until we confirm what we're dealing with. Jinho Seo blinked, our eyes returning to normal as she completed her scrying. We won't be alone, she said quietly. Others seek the fragment. I saw shadows in the water. Hunters, but different. Different how? Hae-In asked sharply. Twisted. Changed. Jinho Seo's brow furrowed. As if they've been remade. The cabin fell silent as the team processed this unsettling information. Goku felt the cold presence stir within him. Suddenly alert with interest or concern, he couldn't quite distinguish which. Vessels, the voice whispered. Not like you. Lesser. Corrupted. Asterisk. Beast Monarch vessels, Goku said aloud. The knowledge rising from that cold place. The fragment is awakening lesser followers first. Hae-In's eyes narrowed. You're certain? The shadow is, Goku clarified. It recognizes the pattern. Before monarchs fully manifest, they create connections with compatible humans, enhancing them with fragments of power. Not true vessels like, he hesitated, like what I'm becoming, but soldiers. Lieutenants. So we're potentially facing monarch-enhanced hunters in addition to whatever, servants of scale and flame, guard the fragment. Junho summarized, his normally stoic expression betraying concern. This operation just keeps getting better, his brother muttered. A communication alert chimed from the ship's console. Hae-In activated the secure channel, and Dr. Brief's face appeared on the monitor. Her blue hair disheveled as if she'd been working without pause since they'd left. Oh good, you're within range, she said without preamble. I've been analyzing the thermal imaging data you transmitted. The volcanic formation isn't natural, at least, not entirely. She sent a file that expanded into a 3-dimensional rendering of the underwater volcano chain. Certain sections glowed with highlighted markers. See these symmetrical patterns. Natural volcanism doesn't create such regular formations. Something modified these structures, possibly thousands of years ago. The original monarchs, Jinho Seo suggested, creating a secure vault for the fragment. Precisely my thinking. Drive. Briefs agreed, her scientific enthusiasm evident despite the concerning implications. And it gets more interesting. The recent seismic activity isn't random. It follows a mathematical sequence consistent with an activation protocol. Someone's deliberately waking it up, Goku concluded. Yes. But from a distance. The energy signatures suggest remote stimulation rather than direct interaction. Dr. Briefs leaned closer to the camera. One more thing. I've detected unusual mana frequencies in that region similar to those recorded during your confrontation with the library gate. The same entity may be involved. The beast monarch, Hae-In said grimly. Or its vessel, drive. Briefs corrected. Remember, we're likely dealing with a human who, like Goku, is undergoing a monarch awakening process. But unlike Goku, this individual seems to be actively accelerating their transformation. Any idea who it might be? Jun-Woo asked. Dr. Briefs shook her head. We're cross-referencing known hunters with unusual power signatures, but nothing conclusive yet. Be extreme L. Why cautious? Our models suggest a beast monarch vessel would have enhanced physical capabilities, animal control or transformation abilities, and potentially accelerated healing. Thanks for the warning, Hae-In said. We'll maintain secure communication protocols during the operation. One last thing. Drive. Briefs added, her expression growing more serious. Goku, how's the energy balance holding? Goku glanced at the monitoring device on his wrist. Stable. The integration techniques Jinho Seo taught me are helping. Good. But be aware that proximity to another monarch fragment might destabilize that balance. The shadow energy will naturally resonate with the fragment, potentially growing stronger than your counterbalancing ki. I'll be careful, Goku promised. As the communication ended, Junho turned to his brother. Ready the specialized equipment. If we're facing monarch-enhanced hostiles, we'll need more than standard gear. Jun-Woo nodded and left the cabin, heading for the secure storage compartment below. Hae-In studied Goku with undisguised assessment. How strong is your Shadow Legion currently? The question caught him off guard. Though he'd used Shadow soldiers in previous operations, they hadn't explicitly discussed building an army. 4 extracted shadows, he answered honestly. The ones from Yangju. They're growing stronger as I invest in them. Invest? Jinho Seo inquired. Her head tilted curiously. It's hard to explain, Goku said, searching for words to describe the process. I can channel power into them. Mana, shadow energy, even ki. It makes them more defined. More capable. Less like animated shadows and more like soldiers. Hae-In finished for him. An actual legion. He nodded. But it takes concentration, especially maintaining multiple extractions simultaneously. Can you extract more? She asked directly. If we encounter suitable entities in the volcano. The cold presence within him stirred with approval at her question. Yes. We must grow stronger. Asterisk. I can. Goku confirmed. But drive. Briefs warned that powerful extractions accelerate the awakening process. Hae-In considered this, weighing tactical advantages against long-term risks. Your call, she finally said. But if the Beast Monarch has enhanced lieutenants, we may need countermeasures of similar strength. The implication was clear. His Shadow soldiers could provide the team with crucial combat support against Monarch-level threats. Yet each new extraction pushed him closer to the threshold where the Shadow Monarch might dominate. I'll do what's necessary, Goku said simply. Something shifted in Hae-In's expression, not quite softening, but a flicker of understanding. That's all any of us can do. Low tide revealed the sea. Avenue entrance exactly as Hae-In had described, a gaping maw in the volcanic rock, partially submerged but accessible. Bioluminescent algae clung to the cave walls, painting the interior with an eerie blue green glow that eliminated the need for artificial lighting. The team advanced in practiced formation. Junho and Jun-Woo on point, their identical movements creating an almost hypnotic visual effect as they cleared the path ahead. Hae-In and Goku followed in the center position, with Jinho Seo bringing up the rear, maintaining a protective barrier around them all. Unusual ecosystem, Junho noted. Examining the phosphorescent organisms coating the walls. These species shouldn't coexist at these temperatures. Nothing about this place is natural, his brother replied, testing the stab. Ility of the stone path that wound deeper into the volcano. The cave sloped downward, leading them beneath the seafloor and into the volcanic structure itself. Despite the proximity to active thermal vents, the temperature remained surprisingly comfortable, another indication of artificial environmental control. After 20 minutes of careful progress, they reached a vast underground chamber. The cave opened into a cathedral-like space. Massive stone columns, clearly shaped by intelligent design rather than natural processes, supported a domed ceiling hundreds of meters above. A lake of dark water occupied the center, its surface perfectly still despite the occasional rumble of volcanic activity beneath. "It's beautiful," Jin-Ho Seo whispered, her voice full of wonder despite the potential dangers. "And deadly," Hae-In cautioned, her enhanced senses detecting something the others couldn't yet perceive. "We're not alone." As if summoned by her words, the lake's surface began to ripple. Steam rose in undulating columns as the water heated rapidly, obscuring their view of whatever was emerging. "Defensive positions," Hae-In ordered, drawing her sword. The runes inscribed Al Ong its length glowed with cold blue energy, responding to her mana. The twins moved with perfect synchronization, taking flanking positions with their curved blades at ready. Jin-Ho Seo strengthened her protective barrier, ancient syllables falling from her lips as she wove additional defensive enchantments into the shield. Goku stepped forward, standing slightly ahead of Hae-In. He called upon the dual energies he'd been practicing with, his natural ki and the shadow power, blending them into the now familiar harmony that enhanced his physical abilities beyond standard S-rank parameters. The lake erupted. Something massive breached the surface, a serpentine form covered in iridescent scales that shimmered between crimson and obsidian. As it rose higher, they could see a reptilian head crowned with horns of volcanic glass. Eyes burning like molten gold, and jaws that could easily engulf a human whole. "Dragon," Jun Wu breathed, momentarily awestruck despite his professional experience. "Servant of scale and flame," Jin-Ho Seo corrected. "Not true dragon but monarch crafted guardian." The creature continued emerging until nearly 20 meters of its length towered above the lake's surface. It regarded them with ancient intelligence, nostrils flaring as it assessed their scent and power. "It recognizes us," the cold voice observed within Goku's mind. "The shadow within you." Asterisk. Before Goku could respond to this internal communication, the Dragon Guardian spoke, not in words, but in sensations that translated themselves into understanding within their minds. "Intruders. Seekers. Why do you disturb the sacred vault?" Asterisk. Hae-In stepped forward, her sword lowered but ready. "We seek the fragment to prevent its misuse. Others come who would use it for destruction." The Guardian's golden eyes narrowed, steam hissing between dagger-like teeth. "Many claim noble purpose. Few speak truth." Asterisk. Its gaze shifted to Goku, focusing with predatory intensity. "Shadow vessel. Incomplete. Unworthy. Yet you carry the essence of the Balance Keeper." Asterisk. "I don't claim to be worthy," Goku replied honestly. "But I won't let the beast monarch claim the fragment." The Guardian seemed to consider this, its massive head swaying slightly as if weighing his words. Then, without warning, it struck, moving with impossible speed for something so large, its jaws snapping shut where Goku had stood a heartbeat before. He evaded by mere centimeters, the dual energy enhancing his reflexes beyond human limitation. The team reacted instantly, falling into combat mode without hesitation. "Surround and contain," Hae-In commanded, her sword tracing blue arcs through the air as she engaged the Guardian's flank. The twins executed their coordinated attack pattern, blades striking in perfect harmony to create resonant energy waves that staggered the massive creature. Jin-Ho Seo maintained their protective barrier while simultaneously casting enhancement spells that increased the team's speed and strength. Goku launched himself upward, avoiding another lightning-fast strike from the Guardian's head. At the apex of his jump, he gathered ki in his palms, not shadow energy, but pure life force concentrated into focused power. Kamehameha. The blue energy beam struck the Guardian's scaled hide, powerful enough to stagger the massive creature but not penetrate its armor. The Dragon Guardian roared in response, the sound reverberating through the chamber with enough force to dislodge stones from the distant ceiling. Test. Trial. Prove worth. Asterisk. The meaning filtered through Goku's mind as he landed, understanding dawning. "It's not trying to kill us," he called to the others. "It's testing us." Hae-In processed this instantly, adjusting her strategy. "Demonstration pattern," she ordered, and the team seamlessly shifted from offensive combat to a coordinated display of power and control. The twins moved into position on opposite sides of the chamber, their blades creating a complex energy field between them. Jin Ho-seo expanded her barrier into elaborate patterns that showcased her spiritual mastery rather than simple protection. Hae-In executed a series of sword forms that demonstrated precision and discipline rather than lethal intent. Understanding the Guardian's purpose, Goku decided on a more dramatic demonstration. He reached into that cold place within him, calling forth the shadows he had extracted and nurtured since Yangju. Arise, he commanded, his voice resonating with dual-toned power. From his shadow emerged 4 distinct entities, each formed own the essence of the monsters he had defeated in his first awakening. They stood at attention around him, more defined than before, their forms having evolved from vague silhouettes into distinct deers with recognizable features and weapons formed of condensed shadow. The Dragon Guardian went perfectly still, its golden eyes fixed on Goku's Shadow Legion with ancient recognition. The armies rise again. The cycle returns. It lowered its massive head until its eyes were level with Goku's. You build your legion, Shadow Vessel, but you are yet few. The Beast Vessel gathers many. The Beast Monarch has a vessel here. Hae-In demanded, moving to stand beside Goku. Where? Coming. Seeking. Hungry. The Guardian's mental voice conveyed urgency now. The fragment responds to awakened vessels. It calls to Monarch essence. As if in confirmation, a distant rumble shook the chamber, different from the volcanic activity they'd felt before. This vibration carried a deliberate rhythm, like massive footsteps approaching through tunnels below. We need that fragment now, Goku said, his shadow soldiers forming a protective perimeter around the team. Before they arrive, the Guardian considered for another moment, then inclined its head in what appeared to be reluctant agreement. Test passed, but challenge remains. The fragment cannot be simply taken. It must be earned through trial of essence. The lake behind the Guardian began to glow, illuminated from deep below by an intense blue-white light. The water parted, revealing a submerged staircase leading down into the volcanic depths. Descend, Shadow Vessel. Alone. Face the trial or depart empty-handed. Hae-In immediately protested. Unacceptable. We proceed as a team or not at all. The Guardian's mental voice hardened. The trial is for vessels only. Others will perish instantly upon crossing the threshold. Another, stronger tremor shook the chamber, dislodging larger stones from the ceiling. The Guardian's head swiveled toward a tunnel entrance on the far side of the lake. They come. Decide quickly. Goku met Hae-In's eyes, seeing the conflict there, tactical assessment warring with something more personal. I have to go, he said quietly. We can't let the Beast Monarch get this fragment. We don't know what this trial of essence entails, she argued, though he could see she recognized the strategic necessity. If you lose yourself to the shadow down there, I won't, he promised, with more confidence than he truly felt. Jin Ho-seo approached, removing something from within her traditional robes, a small amulet on a simple cord. This will help maintain your spiritual integrity, she said, placing it around his neck. It cannot prevent the shadow's growth, but it may help you remember yourself. The twins exchanged glances, then Jun-ho stepped forward. If you're not back in 30 minutes, we're coming after you, Guardian's warnings be damned. Agreed, his brother added with unusual seriousness. Don't make us rescue your shadow-possessed corpse. Despite the gravity of the moment, Goku smiled at their blunt encouragement. He turned to Hae-In, who still looked led but resigned to the necessity of their choice. 30 minutes, she agreed finally. Then we breach regardless of consequences. Goku nodded, then turned toward the revealed staircase. The cold presence within him surged with anticipation as he approached the threshold. Finally, it whispered. Power. Connection. Remembrance. Just remember our deal, Goku replied silently. We work together or not at all. He stepped onto the first stair, feeling ancient energy wash over him like a physical wave. Behind him, he heard the Dragon Guardian addressing his team. Prepare, hunters. The corrupted ones approach. They will not honor challenge or threshold. As Goku descended into the glowing depths, the sounds of preparation for battle faded above him. The staircase spiraled downward, leading him into the heart of the volcano, Yet the temperature remained surprisingly comfortable despite logic suggesting he should be approaching magma. After descending for what felt like several minutes, he reached a circular chamber unlike anything he'd expected. Instead of volcanic rock, the walls appeared to be composed of some crystal-like substance that pulsed with blue-white light. In the center floated a fragment, a shard of something larger, its jagged edges suggesting violent separation from a whole. The fragment radiated power unlike anything Goku had encountered, even during his awakening. It called to the shadow within him, resonating at frequencies that made his dual energy vibrate in response. As he approached, the chamber's light intensified, and suddenly he was no longer alone. A figure stood on the opposite side of the fragment, a mirror image of himself, but with crucial differences. This doppelganger's eyes glowed entirely blue without white or pupil, and shadow WS coiled around its form like living smoke. The trial begins, the cold voice informed him. You face yourself. What you may become. Asterisk. The shadow version of himself spoke, its voice eerily similar to his own but overlaid with that ancient coldness he recognized from within. You resist still. You cling to humanity when you could be so much more. I'm not interested in being more, Goku replied, circling cautiously. Just in stopping the beast monarch. His shadow self laughed, a sound devoid of the warmth that typically characterized Goku's own laughter. Noble sentiment. A convenient lie you tell yourself. But I know the truth. I am the truth. Without warning, the doppelganger attacked, moving with the same enhanced speed and strength Goku himself possessed. Their fists connected with thunderous impact. The chamber trembling with the force of their collision. You crave power, the shadow self hissed as they exchanged blows too fast for normal perception. You always have. The thrill of becoming stronger. Of surpassing limitations. Goku blocked a particularly vicious strike, countering with a sweeping kick that his opponent evaded with familiar ease. Getting stronger to protect others isn't the same as craving power for its own sake. Such distinctions are human conceits, the shadow replied, gathering darkness into its palms, a corrupted version of Goku's Kamehameha. The monarch cares nothing for your moral qualifications. The shadow energy blast forced Goku to dodge, the attack hitting the crystalline wall behind him and dissipating harmlessly, apparently, chamber was designed to contain such power. Then why test me at all? Goku demanded, launching his own energy attack, the true Kamehameha, blue and vibrant with life force. If my humanity is irrelevant, why not just take me over completely? His shadow self barely avoided the energy beam, its expression showing the first hint of uncertainty. Because you are strong in ways previous vessels were not. Your will, your spirit, they resist natural corruption. They clashed again, trading blows that would have shattered ordinary matter. Goku found himself perfectly matched. Each technique he attempted was countered with identical skill, each strategy anticipated before execution. You cannot defeat yourself, the shadow taunted, though Goku noticed it was breathing heavily now, mirroring his own growing exertion. Accept what you are becoming. Embrace the monarch's power fully. Jinho Seo's amulet grew warm against Goku's chest as he fought, reminding him of his connection to something beyond this chamber. Beyond the shadow's influence. He thought of his team waiting above, of Hae-In's determined leadership, the twins' irreverent loyalty, Jinho Seo's quiet wisdom. I already know what I am, Goku said. Finding new resolve. I'm Son Goku. Trained by my grandfather in the martial arts. B-rank hunter who became S-rank. And yes, vessel of the Shadow Monarch, but on my terms. He stopped attacking, instead standing straight and looking his shadow self directly in its glowing eyes. I don't need to defeat you. I need to accept you as part of me, but only part. Not the whole. The shadow hesitated, clearly unprepared for this change in approach. You cannot deny your nature. I'm not denying anything, Goku said calmly. I'm integrating it. The shadow and the light. The monarch and the man. Balance. As he spoke the word, the amulet flared with sudden warmth, and understanding flooded through him. Not from the cold presence, but from something deeper, more intuitive. He extended his hand toward his shadow self, palm open. We're strongest together. Not you dominating me or me rejecting you. True synthesis. The shadow stared at his outstretched hand with clear suspicion. Previous vessels tried similar deceptions. They failed. I'm not them, Goku said simply. And I'm not trying to deceive you. We both want the same thing. To stop the Beast Monarch from gathering the fragments. To maintain the balance between dimensions. Something shifted in the shadow's expression. Recognition, perhaps, or resignation. It slowly extended its own hand, fingers almost touching Goku's. Synthesis, it echoed. The coldness in its voice less pronounced. Unknown territory. Unpredictable outcome. That's life, Goku replied with a slight smile. Unpredictable. Their fingers touched. And light exploded through the chamber. Not the blue-white glow of before, but a new radiance that combined Goku's vibrant ki with the shadow's ancient power. The doppelganger dissolved, flowing into Goku like water returning to its source. Knowledge flooded his mind. Fragments of the Shadow Monarch's memories, purposes, fears. Not complete understanding, but glimpses of a cosmic conflict spanning millennia. Of barriers between dimensions maintained through careful balance, of monarchs whose ambitions threatened multiple worlds. When the light faded, Goku stood alone before the floating fragment. It pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat now, responding to the newly harmonized energy within him. When he reached for it, the fragment moved willingly into his palm, warm and alive with potential. The cold voice spoke again, but differently now, less separate, more integrated with his own thoughts. The first fragment. Power to enhance our legion. To stand against the beast. Asterisk. Our legion, Goku repeated aloud. Testing how the concept felt now. No longer a foreign imposition but a shared purpose. Not to conquer. To protect. Yes. Protection. Balance. The original purpose before corruption. Asterisk. The fragment pulsed once more, then seemed to dissolve, its energy flowing into Goku's body and settling in that place where shadow and ki now coexisted in greater harmony than before. He felt instantly stronger, more connected to the shadow aspect of himself, yet paradoxically more firmly anchored in his human identity. The chamber began to rumble, more violently than the tremors from above. The trial complete. The volcanic environment was returning to its natural state. Goku turned and sprinted up the spiral staircase, enhanced speed carrying him upward far faster than his descent. He emerged into chaos. The cathedral chamber had become a battlefield, the Dragon Guardian engaged with something massive at the far tunnel entrance while Hae-In's team fought against a group of twisted humanoid figures, hunters whose bodies had been grotesquely enhanced with bestial features. Jung-Woo spotted him first. About time, he shouted, blocking a strike from an opponent whose arms had been transformed into tiger-like limbs complete with massive claws. These beast monarch groupies crashed the party 5 minutes ago. Goku assessed the situation quickly. 8 corrupted hunters fought against his team. Their movements unnaturally powerful but lacking the coordination that made Hae-In's squad so effective. Despite this advantage, his companions were clearly outnumbered and gradually losing ground. Jin-Ho Seo maintained a protective barrier around herself and the wounded Jun-Ho, who had sustained a deep gash across his torso. Hae-In fought with cold precision against 3 opponents simultaneously. Her sword leaving trails of blue energy as she kept them at bay through sheer skill rather than matching their enhanced strength. Without hesitation, Goku tapped into his newly integrated power. The harmonic balance he'd achieved in the trial made the energy flow more naturally, shadow and ki responding to his will as unified force rather than competing influences. Arise. The command carried new weight, new authority. His Shadow Legion emerged, the original 4 soldiers now substantially enhanced by the fragment's power. They formed around him with crisp military precision, awaiting direction. But Goku wasn't finished. Drawing on his connection to the fragment, he extended his awareness to the corrupted hunters. Unlike natural monsters, these air humans twisted by monarch influence, but that corruption had left its own kind of shadow, a darkness that he could now perceive and potentially command. Those who serve corruption shall serve balance instead, he intoned. The words coming from that integrated place of shadow knowledge and human compassion. Arise. He struck the ground with his palm, shadow energy rippling outward like a shockwave. When it reached the corrupted hunters, something extraordinary happened. Shadows peeled away from them, extracting not their entirety but the bestial corruption itself. The corrupted hunters collapsed, returned to their human forms. While their bestial aspects coalesced into new shadow soldiers, crude compared to his original legion but functional and firmly under his command. Impossible, Jin-Ho Seo whispered. Witnessing shadow extraction on a scale unprecedented in recorded hunter history. Goku directed his expanded legion with instinctive ease, the soldiers moving to protect his Amits and engage the remaining corrupted hunters. The original four, now evolved into shadow generals of sorts, coordinated the newer extractions with tactical precision that reflected both Monarch K. knowledge and Goku's own combat experience. Across the chamber, the Dragon Guardian battled against a truly monstrous opponent, a creature that seemed cobbled together from dozens of different predatory species. Its body constantly shifting between forms as it attacked. At its core, barely visible within the morphing mass, was a human figure, the Beast Monarch's primary vessel. He cannot claim the fragment himself. The integrated voice explained within Goku's mind. He sends lesser vessels first, conserving his strength. Asterisk. Then let's make sure he wastes this effort, Goku replied aloud, dire. CTing his Shadow Legion to secure the chamber while he approached the main battle. Hae-In fell into step beside him, her sword still glowing with battle energy. The fragment, she asked tersely. Secured, he confirmed. And I passed the trial. She studied him briefly, her enhanced senses detecting the change in his energy signature. You're different. More balanced, he explained. The shadow and I reached an understanding. Convenient timing, she noted, though without accusation. What about these? She gestured toward the shadow soldiers efficiently subduing the remaining corrupted hunters. New additions to the Legion. I extracted the bestial corruption itself, separating it from the humans. Her eyes widened slightly, the most surprise she ever showed in combat situations. That's not in any documentation of shadow extraction capability. I don't think anyone's tried it before, Goku admitted. It felt right. Further discussion was interrupted as they reached the Guardians' battle. Despite its massive size and power, the dragon was clearly tiring against the shape-shifting horror that was the Beast Monarch's vessel. Fresh wounds leaked luminescent blue fluid from gaps in its scaled armor. The vessel noticed their approach, multiple eyes forming across its amorphous body to track them. A voice emerged from within the shifting mass, distorted and multi-toned, but recognizably human beneath the bestial overtones. Shadow Monarch, it growled, momentarily pausing its assault on the Guardian. You've claimed the fragment. How? Disappointing. You know me? Goku asked, gathering energy for potential combat. A sound like multiple animals laughing emerged from the creature. I've been tracking your awakening since Yangju. Such potential, wasted on maintaining human sentiment. The mass shifted, briefly revealing more of the human core, a man with features that might once have been handsome before bestial transformation began overriding them. Only his eyes remained fully human. Cold and calculating. Park Jin-sung. Hae-In identified him with shock. Former S-rank hunter who disappeared during a gate incident last year. The association presumed him dead. Reborn. The vessel corrected, its form continuing to shift and flow. The beast showed me truth beyond your precious association's limited understanding. Power without arbitrary constraints. The Dragon Guardian used this momentary distraction to reposition, its wounds already beginning to heal as it moved protectively toward the lake, the fragment's former resting place. You've lost this round, Goku stated firmly. The fragment is secured. Your corrupted hunters are defeated. Retreat while you can. The beast vessel's multiple eyes narrowed simultaneously. You think small, Shadow. This was merely reconnaissance, confirming your capabilities, your weaknesses. Its gaze shifted to Hae-In beside him. Your attachments. Goku felt a protective surge, both from him's LF and the shadow aspect, at the implied threat. His Shadow Legion responded to this emotion, moving into offensive formation around him. The beast vessel observed this reaction with evident satisfaction. Interesting. The mighty Shadow Monarch, compromised by human sentiment. The beast will be pleased to know. Before either Goku or Hae-In could respond, the vessel began to dissolve, its amorpho's body breaking apart into dozens of smaller beasts that scattered in different directions, escaping through cracks and tunnels too small for effective pursuit. Let them go, the Dragon Guardian's Entel voice instructed as Hae-In prepared to give chase. The fragment is secured. That was today's victory. Asterisk. A small victory if he's just gathering intelligence for a larger confrontation, Hae-In replied, sheathing her sword with controlled precision that betrayed her frustration. The Guardian turned its ancient gaze to Goku. You are changed, Shadow Vessel. The fragment has accelerated your integration. Asterisk. Is that good or bad? Goku asked, genuinely uncertain. Unknown. Unprecedented. The Guardian's mental tone conveyed something like cautious approval. Previous vessels either rejected the shadow or were consumed by it. You walk a third path. Asterisk. Jun Wu approached, supporting his injured brother. Not to interrupt the cryptic dragon wisdom, but Junho needs medical attention, and those tremors are getting worse. He was right. The chamber shook with increasing violence, stones falling from the ceiling as the volcanic structure began returning to its natural state with the fragment removed. The guardianship ends. The vault returns to fire and water. The dragon began sinking back into the lake, steam rising around its massive form. Beware the beast vessel, Shadow Monarch. He serves corruption willingly, unlike those he transforms against their will. Asterisk. Wait. Hae-In called. There are 6 more fragments. Where are they? The Guardian paused, partially submerged. Scattered by design. Hidden by element. The next awaits where Earth reaches sky, guarded by servants of stone and wind. Asterisk. With that final cryptic guidance, the Dragon Guardian disappeared beneath the lake's surface, which began to boil violently as natural volcanic processes reasserted themselves. Time to leave, Goku decided, extending his awareness to his Shadow Legion. Most of the newly extracted soldiers had already dissipated, their ephemeral nature making them difficult to maintain without direct focus. The original 4 remained, however, now evolved into more permanent lieutenants through the fragment's power. Return, he commanded, and they flowed back into his shadow, a process that felt more natural and less invasive than before. The team retreated through the tunnel as the chamber collapsed behind them. Magma beginning to reclaim the ancient vault. Jun-Ho's injury, while serious, stabilized under Jin-Ho Seo's healing magic, allowing them to move with reasonable speed. Ey reached the surface just as high tide began reclaiming the cave entrance, sunlight feeling strange and ordinary after the otherworldly environment below. Their association vessel waited offshore, IT's crew unaware of the mythological confrontation that had occurred beneath the volcanic seabed. As they boarded, Jin-Ho Seo immediately took Jun-Ho to the medical bay for proper treatment. Jun Wu lingered just long enough to deliver a succinct assessment of the operation. So we got the glowy rock fragment thing, fought corrupted hunters, met an actual dragon, and discovered the beast Monarch's vessel as a former S rank. Productive day. He gave Goku a measured look. And you've apparently leveled up your shadow army. Neat trick with the extraction from living hunters. They're alive, Goku confirmed, having been uncertain during the chaos of battle. Unconscious but human again, Jun-Woo affirmed. Whatever you pulled out of them took the bestial corruption with it. Association Klee. A noob team will have interesting questions when they collect them. With that, he headed below to check on his brother. Alone on deck, Goku and Hae-In watched Jeju Island recede as the vessel accelerated toward the mainland. The setting sun painted the volcanic shoreline in shades of fire, a fitting conclusion to their encounter with servants of scale and flame. You need to report to Dr. Briefs when we return, Hae-In said after several minutes of companionable silence. The changes to your extraction abilities are significant developments. Goku nodded, leaning against the railing. Do you think the association will see it that way? As development rather than escalation? She considered this carefully before answering. The ability to extract corruption without harming the host has potential applications beyond combat. It might shift some perspectives. She glanced at him. How does it feel? The integration you mentioned. Different, he admitted. Before, it was like having 2 separate power sources, my ki and the shadow energy. Now they're harmonizing. Not fully merged, but working together rather than in parallel. And the voice. The Shadow Monarch's influence. Still there, but changed. Less like an external entity giving instructions, more like having access to ancient memories. Knowledge that feels partly mine now. Hae-In's expression remained neutral, but her eyes betrayed concern. The association will want to monitor this development closely. There's no precedent for successful integration with Monarch essence. You mean they'll want to determine if I'm becoming a threat? Goku translated bluntly. She didn't deny it. Can you blame them? We just encountered Park Jin-sung, an S-rank hunter with years of distinguished service, transformed into the beast Monarch's willing vessel. It demonstrates how Monarch influence can corrupt even the most disciplined minds. I'm not Park, Goku said firmly. And the Shadow Monarch isn't the beast. Their natures are fundamentally different. Based on information the shadow itself provides, she pointed out. Which requires a certain leap of faith. The fragment's energy stirred within him, and knowledge rose from that integrated place. The Shadow Monarch maintains balance between dimensions. The Beast Monarch seeks to dissolve boundaries and rule across all realms. Their purposes are diametrically opposed. Hae-In studied him for a long moment. You speak with considerable certainty for someone who only learned about monarchs 3 weeks ago. Not me, Goku clarified. The fragment, it contained memories, history, purpose. He met her gaze directly. I understand more now, but I'm still me. The integration strengthens that, doesn't diminish it. Something in his explanation seemed to resonate with her. The original shadow extractors never reached this stage, she noted. They either rejected the power or were consumed by it before integration could occur. Maybe they didn't have the right support. Goku suggested. Jinho Seo's spiritual techniques, drive, briefs monitoring, your team's structure. He hesitated, then added more quietly, your guidance. The personal acknowledgement clearly caught her off guard. For a brief moment, her professional composure slipped, revealing something more vulnerable beneath. I've done very little beyond standard protocols. You trusted me, Goku said simply. When the association wanted to treat me as a potential threat, you advocated for development instead. That matters. The fading sunlight caught the gold flecks in her eyes, highlighting the unusual color that marked her own uniqueness among hunters. For a moment, she seemed about to say something more personal, then visibly reconsidered. We should prepare our reports, she said. Professional demeanor reasserting itself. The association will want detailed accounts of the Guardian, the vault configuration, and especially Park Jin-sung's involvement. Goku nodded, accepting her retreat to familiar professional territory. I'll document the shadow extraction modifications as thoroughly as possible. Doctor. Briefs will want specifics, as if summoned by mention of her name. Goku's communication device chimed with an incoming call from the scientist. He activated it, and Dr. Brief's holographic image appeared above the small projector. The monitoring data is extraordinary, she exclaimed without preamble, her blue hair even more disheveled than during their previous communication. Your energy signature has undergone fundamental restructuring. The shadow and key frequencies are harmonizing at quantum levels. This is unprecedented in all our Monarch research. Hello to you too, Drive. Briefs, Goku replied with amusement. She blinked, momentarily derailed by the social nicety. Oh, yes, hello. But seriously, what happened down there? The monitoring device recorded a massive energy surge followed by what appears to be spontaneous quantum reorganization of your dual energy system. I passed a trial, Goku explained. Faced a shadow version of myself and reached integration instead of fighting it. Fascinating. A psychological representation of internal conflict externalized through Monarch energy manipulation. The symbolic resolution then manifested as actual energetic integration. Her eyes gleamed with scientific excitement. And the fragment? Did you secure it? Absorbed it? He corrected. It's part of me now, enhancing the integration and strengthening my shadow abilities. Dr. Brief's expression shifted from excitement to concern. Absorbed the entire fragment. That's significantly faster advancement than our models predicted. She began typing frantically on a device off screen. We need to recalibrate all projections. If absorption rather than proximity is possible, the awakening timeline accelerates dramatically. Is that dangerous? Hae-In asked, stepping into the hologram's field of view. Potentially, Drive. Briefs admitted. But the integration pattern is encouraging. Unlike previous shadow extractors, Goku's native key is maintaining structural integrity throughout the enhancement process. She focused on Goku again. Any new abilities beyond the increased shadow extraction you demonstrated? How do you know about that already? He asked with surprise. The association deployed observation drones after receiving reports of seismic activity. Standard procedure for potential gate-adjacent events. She shrugged unapologetically. I may have accessed the feed. For scientific purposes. Of course you did, Hae-In said dryly. The extraction from corrupted hunters is particularly significant. Drive. Briefs continued, undeterred. It suggests shadow manipulation at a more granular level. Han previously documented, targeting specific energetic corruption rather than whole entities. It felt natural, Goku explained. Like the fragment showed me it was possible. Knowledge transfer through direct energetic absorption. Drive. Briefs theorized. The fragment contained not just power but information, techniques, abilities, memories. The next fragment is where Earth reaches sky, Hae-In interjected. Returning to practical matters. Guarded by servants of stone and wind. Any thoughts on the location? Doctor. Brief's focus shifted instantly to this new puzzle. Mountains, obviously. Earth reaching sky is pretty straightforward metaphorically. Korea has several significant mountain ranges that might qualify. It feels more distant, Goku said, the knowledge rising from that integrated place. Not in Korea. Further west. Tibet. Dr. Briefs suggested. The Himalayas are the definition of Earth reaching sky. And Tibet has historical connections to monarch legends through its indigenous mythology. That matches what I'm sensing, Goku confirmed. But it's not urgent yet. The fragment there is still dormant. How can you tell? Hae-In asked with professional interest. The absorbed fragment connects me to the others somehow. I can sense their status faintly, like distant lights of varying brightness. The Tibetan fragment is dim, inactive. Dr. Brief's scientific enthusiasm returned full force. A network connection between fragments. This confirms our theory about monarch power distribution. The fragments aren't just containers but interconnected components of a larger system. We should return to headquarters and debrief properly, Hae-In decided. The Beast Monarch's vessel is a former S-rank hunter. That changes our strategic approach significantly. Park Jin-sung. Drive. Briefs said. Her expression grave. I'll pull all his files from the archives. His transformation process might provide insight into how monarch corruption progresses in contrast to Goku's integration pattern. The communication ended with promises of comprehensive debriefing upon their return to Seoul. As the hologram faded, Goku felt a wave of fatigue, not physical exhaustion, but the mental strain of processing everything that had occurred beneath Jeju Island. You should rest, Hae-In observed, noticing his condition with her usual perceptiveness. Integration at that level requires recovery time. What about you? He asked, noting the subtle signs of strain in her own posture. You fought multiple enhanced hunters simultaneously. I'll file preliminary reports, then rest, she said. Her professional discipline unwavering. Always the team leader, Goku observed with a small smile. Do you ever just stop? The question seemed to catch her off guard. For a moment, something unguarded flickered across her features, a glimpse of the woman beneath the S-rank hunter's carefully maintained exterior. Not often, she admitted quietly. It's easier to keep moving forward. Because when you stop, you remember. He guessed, thinking of her previous team lost in the Northern China incident. She met his gaze, surprise evident that he had perceived this about her. Yes, she said simply. The honesty of that single syllable created a moment of connection between them, a shared understanding of how the extraordinary lives they led required certain psychological defenses. Certain ways of managing the weight of responsibility and loss. I'll file the reports, Goku offered. You rest first. She started to object automatically, then reconsidered. That's not necessary. I know. I'm offering anyway. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. Thank you. As she turned to leave, Goku felt the integrated shadow stir with interest at this interaction. She is unusual, it observed. Strong. Resilient. Worthy of attention. Asterisk. She's my team leader. Goku replied silently, though he couldn't deny his own growing interest in the comply. Ex-woman behind Hae-In's professional facade. She is more than that, the shadow countered. She bears the mark of previous shadow contact. From before your awakening. Asterisk. This caught Goku's attention. What do you mean? The incident she mentioned. Northern China. The shadow that protected her. It came from the same source as the power you now wield. A connection exists, though neither of you fully understand it yet. Asterisk. Goku watched Hae-In disappear below deck, this new information adding another layer to the already complex relationship developing between them. If the shadow was correct, Their paths had been intersecting long before they formally met, guided by forces neither fully comprehended. The vessel continued cutting through darkening waters toward the mainland, carrying them back to an association now facing the reality of active Monarch vessels operating within their ranks. As night fell completely, Goku remained on deck, feeling the fragment's power settle more fully into his integrated being. In the distance, he could sense the dormant fragments scattered across the world, 6 remaining pieces of a cosmic puzzle that multiple powers now raced to complete. And somewhere out there, Park Jin-sung gathered his strength, his corrupted hunters, his bestial army, preparing for the next confrontation between monarchs whose ancient conflict now played out through human vessels. The Shadow Legion would need to grow stronger. Much stronger. Chapter 3 End. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.